entertain information, questions, thoughts. Kelly.
Oh, I love the looks of the book, Connie. I wanted to remind everybody that we do have a regional library system. It doesn't go to all our county schools, but certainly books that are in the shortgrass system go throughout the entire province and are available to anybody in the province. So I just want to remind everybody of that availability, and that was put in place, part of the reason to save some book buying, right? So just throw that out there for food for thought. It doesn't, again, Bazzano, Rosemary, and Duchess have their own school libraries, but otherwise that would the shortgrass system provides books throughout the rest of the county through their mini libraries, municipal libraries.
Marie?
Yeah, good point, Kelly. There is different avenues of getting a book, any book, into the school system. And I think at our level of government that we can support the resolutions to have agriculture being promoted in the schools, and I think that's where maybe we have to stop. I don't feel right about buying one book where there might be quite a few more out there that, you know, I just think we should stop at the resolution level.
Thoughts? Brian?
Connie, I think I read there that the book will be available at the ASB Winter Conference in Banff.
Yeah, because I'm attending as a delegate from Cypress County, so I've asked the AAAF to give me a free table, but $1,500 is a lot for first-time authors. But if you order books, I'll track it down and get it.
So I would like to, I'll tell you right now, I'm going to buy a book, at least one, probably a few more. And if nothing else, at least, like Kelly said, I want to donate it to my local library. The struggle that I have is I have a neighbor and that she's in the same business, and I've discouraged her from coming to council too. And she's published a few books, and they're farm related. They're way different than yours. They're more interactive, I think. She does felt and stuff like that, and they're great. We got them for our grandkids and stuff like that, but I can't really support your request when I've already indicated to somebody else that, you know, so that's how I'm coming at it from, so I hope you respect that.
Other thoughts? So are people feeling that it's something that you could personally support versus publicly supporting because of the bind it might put us in with letting people know that this is an avenue for support? I don't know. Lionel?
I like the principle of a personal donation rather than from the county as a whole. Personally, that's my thoughts anyway.
Tracy?
How would Connie get her books into the library systems?
Well, once one or all of us were to donate a book to our local library, then it becomes a property of that library. And if they are a member of the shortgrass system, it then gets into the system as well. It's cataloged, and it's up for borrow throughout the entire province. So getting the word out there that this book is available could be borrowed from Red Deer or any place from the north that has a regional library card and member. So, and then to the schools, that's another option. You know, Bazzano, Rosemary, and Dutchess, they have their in-school libraries, so that's another option, and that wouldn't be borrowed outside of the school, but still available for students. And then, of course, we all have family and friends who live rurally or urbanly, so we can get them into the cities that way as well. But I think, Connie, your presentation today was great, and we'll certainly, I will be doing my part to promote your endeavors.
Yeah, and as I said earlier, I think our rural kids may be losing a few things along the way, but those who truly live on farms are still pretty into this. I think you know, I'll buy some books too, but I'm going to make sure they get into more urban settings. So we are not going to, we're saying that we'll look after this on a personal level rather than a public level. Everybody's okay with that? Connie, this order form that's in our books, we could email back to you, or well, we could send checks, but you said $18 each plus GST. Okay. Well, folks, don't forget to put your money where your mouth is and get your orders in. Yeah. Or yes, they're purchased at the ASB conference too. So both of. Thank you, Connie, for the work that you do. And
Yeah, thanks for listening.
you betcha. And I'm sure people will be looking forward to seeing you at the Ag Service Board conference, and you're hoping for your books to be there.
Yeah, that's, the goal to have printed, and then just try to find some space to sell them. Still working on that.
Yeah, all right. Well, good luck with that all, and thank you for what you do. Bye-bye. All right, we have a 1 o'clock delegation. John and, oh, he's back. So this is item 8.3, top of our page 2. And it is involving the invasive species and a proposed bylaw. And we welcome John and Brandy. And we'll do some quick introductions here around our table. And then Brandy can, John and Brandy can, we know who John is, Brandy can fill us in on where she fits into seeing us, and we'll go over to Lionel.
Hi, Brandy. Lionel Justin. I'm from Division 10, which is north and east of Brooks.
Good afternoon. Huey Kellum, Division 2, Tilley.
Hi, Brandy. I'm Tracy Fife, Division 5, which is south and west around Brooks.
Anne-Marie Phillipson, Patricia area.
Brandy Zhang around the Village Duchess.
Good afternoon, Clarence Amulin, and I live in Rolling Hills.
Hi and welcome. I'm Molly Douglas, and I live in the northern part of the county out by the Red Deer River.
Welcome. I'm Kevin Stevenson, County Administrator.
Hi, I'm Kelly Chrisman. I'm from the west side of the county.
Hi, Wayne Hammergan. I'm from Division 4, which is Scandia, Rainier, and Bow City.
Good afternoon, Ellen Unruh, and I represent the countryside around the village of Rosemary.
Good afternoon, Ariana Nielsen, Executive Assistant.
Lane Johnson, the Director of Corporate Services.
I think my microphone's on. My name is Brandy Dirksen. I currently work at the Eastern Irrigation District, and I am overseeing their aquatic invasive species prevention program. It was a relatively new position, but been here since the end of April.
You said you started at the end of April?
Yes.
Okay.
I did, yes.
All right. Yeah. And so you guys are coming today with a bylaw to make it easier for enforcement.
Yes, that is correct. So basically, For the purpose of this report, the invasive species are mussels that reproduce rapidly and cause extensive damage to the infrastructure and also watercraft. And in order to mitigate and prevent this, I'm here to propose a bylaw for invasive species to be presented just for discussion. And basically, the introduction of the invasive species in the water bodies within the County of Newell, I believe, would have major consequences. It's the potential for clogged pipes caused by the introduction of invasive species would significantly affect the farming community that relies on irrigation water. And I believe another significant consequence from an invasive species introduction into the local water bodies would be the potential impact on the aspect of local tourism industry that caters to recreation on local reservoirs. The introduction of mussels into the water bodies would have a huge financial impact as well within the county and Newell. Now, the reason for considering a bylaw is that presently the provincial government has not granted community peace officers authority to address control measures required to prevent the establishment of invasive species. This has limited the options available when dealing with watercraft. A bylaw would provide the legal authority to deal with this matter. I've also enclosed links to resource material on mussels and concerns about dealing with this growing problem. Also included is some information submitted by the EID just on some of the suggested parameters that should be included within a bylaw. And as you saw here, I've enclosed like some websites here for additional information on the invasive species. As well, Brandy is here. She has a better knowledge base on the invasive species to answer any questions on the risk and potential impact that aquatic invasive species could affect the county of Newell. One thing I will specify though, I have it as invasive species, but we are looking at aquatic invasive species. So this isn't all invasive species, meaning weeds and all that. We're just focusing on the aquatic invasive species for this proposal, for this discussion.
So we are aware that in the last few years about the inspection sites and those sorts of things, so county peace officers have not been able to be very involved in that, John, is that?
Yeah, correct. Right now, what I've done is I've contacted the manager of peace officer program and asked about the authority right now with the province. Like, can we get the authority to do inspections under the fisheries and what they're doing right now? And the province, Soldiana said, no, they're not looking at giving community peace officers the authority at this time. So right now, we're really limited. What we can do is if they're on EID land, because it's still on EID land, we've been asking, basically it is voluntary, saying, look, you know, we need to inspect your boat and all that, and you know, and if there's refusal, then EID would have the option to say, you know, you have to leave the property, but it is limiting us on what authority that we can do to mitigate or assist even EID for their inspections, right? Even on that part of it, where, like I say, a bylaw would help us out for authority, help EID out for doing their inspections, where they can say, well, it's not voluntary. There's actually a bylaw in place, you know, that you have to get it inspected before you go onto the water, which I think may be, in some instances, more to the public, more receptive than saying it's voluntary, because if they hear voluntary, then it's like, well, you know, I don't feel like doing this.
And Brandy, do you want to add to?
So I worked at the Dunmore station for the provincial government, which is the most eastern station. It's also the most high-risk station. I worked there for 2 years before I was brought on with the EID. So I encountered many mussel boats. I decontaminated many mussel boats and really got to experience firsthand the severity of these mussels and how many can actually go into a reservoir just based on it coming off of a watercraft. And they're absolutely detrimental. And so having this bylaw in place would just help concrete that idea, I guess, because a lot of people are still not completely aware of these zebra mussels or the other consequences they can have on irrigation, agriculture, as well as municipal water use and tourism.
Questions, folks? Tracy, Brian?
Will there be extra training needed for you in order to fully detect, or you've already been going through this with EID for detection and inspection?
Thanks, Tracy. Yeah, EID was really good. They actually offered us the basic training, which was no cost, to get like an idea of what to look for. And then the other part of it is we would be heavily using Brandy as a resource to do like us is kind of looking real basic and go, okay, is there an issue? And then we can refer to Brandy and ask and say, this is what we got. If she's not close, what are your options or what are your thoughts on it? So we've received the basic training where Brandy said with the provincial, she's received even further training.
So, two questions, I guess, or two. First of all, have you had, with the amount of surveillance that's been done so far, have you had any pushbacks from boat users as far as having their equipment scrutinized? And so that's the first question. Second question is do you see a problem with being able to enforce it? Because it goes back to what we deal with many times. Right. It's one thing to put rules in, whether they're speed or traffic or other stuff that you're responsible for, and it's another thing to have the resources to actually be able to do the enforcement. So you can answer those two, please.
Yeah. Thank you for the questions, Brian. Yeah, good questions. Yeah, the first question, and Brandy would be aware of this because she was the one that dealt with it, and it was a watercraft from the States that pulled into their check station there to be checked, and we explained to him what his options were, that there was a check and all that, and that boater had some issues, because he basically went by the Dunmore station and didn't get checked, so he thought, hey, if they don't check me, I'm good. And because he come from a high-risk water location, that he was told he had to be checked, and there was some pushback on that. He did at the end go back and get it checked. I'll let Brandy maybe fill in a little more on that one if you wish, because you were directly interacting with him.
So I think the one that you're speaking of, he came from Idaho.
That's correct.
He was in Sandpoint, Idaho, which I've now know is like very popular area in the summer for Alberta boaters, because it's just like, it's mountains, very pretty. He went up through BC because going through up through Montana, there was a mountain range he had to cross, and he wanted to avoid that, so he went up through BC, and the western stations have all been closed as of this year. And so he was planning on going through the Jumping Pound station, which is just west of Calgary, but that one was closed. And then he came directly to us, to Lake Newell, and we told him these are the options. He was also had water in his engine and his bilge that I could see pouring out, and I was concerned of veligerd, which is a microscopic larvae of these mussels, which are very present in water, and Idaho doesn't have a very stringent protocol and monitoring program that Alberta or BC does. And so just to be safe, sent him to Dunmore, and he did have some pushback because it was an extra 2 or 3 hours out of his way, and he said that Idaho doesn't have mussels and that shouldn't be a concern, and that we were being a little ridiculous. But eventually he went to the Dunmore station and got inspected and came back and provided that documentation.
Yeah, I would say that, and again, please correct me if I'm wrong on this, that from what I'm hearing from Brandy and talking to him when we go in and talk to him, that people have been very responsive to helping us, right? Especially when you explain that it's in their interest, that we don't want the waterways infected. So people have been pretty good about, from my understanding, of getting checked, and not a lot of pushback. But we had that instance that Brandy dealt, and that's kind of the ones we're trying to deal with. That get really good compliance, but it's the ones that aren't that trying to give us options to go, how are we going to deal with them? So that's the first part. And then the second part, Brian, of the question there for this bylaw and response. I can tell you, not speaking directly to this one because this would be the first one, but City of Calgary did do a bylaw for life jackets that you have to have them if you're in the Bow River. That actually was challenged, and that's under the Municipal Government Act, Section 60. It went to court for that bylaw and was challenged, and it was successful. The person lost, so it was successfully upheld with the bylaw, and that person had to pay whatever the fine was. So then it became case law. So I'm kind of bringing that forward, saying that has been an example of a bylaw and an MGA kind of mirroring a federal law or provincial law that went bylaw way and was upheld in the courts. So going from that, I'm saying if it goes forward, and I can't say 100% like everything, but I can say that there has been instances with bylaws that have went through and been upheld. I hope that answers.
Yeah, no, I think I was more in terms of, are you able to physically, with your staff and with, are you able to actually be able to provide the kind of coverage that the EID and the objective is, and good information as far as the statute and how it works within the MGA. But I guess from a physical, how to get around sort of thing, how do you foresee problems or not?
Thank you, sorry. The resource side is what I'm understanding, kind of what you're saying, staffing. Yes, on that end, it would be a little more work for us as far as, if we ever did go ahead with the charge, that would be a little more work on our end. We do currently, right now, we do try and check with Brandy and their station and make sure how everything's going. So we currently are doing that resource-wise to do pop-ins and check with them with the EID patrols. So we, again, we are already doing that. Like I say, our resources where it would be a little more would be, as far as the enforcement part, I guess, obviously, because we don't have that right now. But the physical checking and doing that, we already have been doing it with the EID during the summer. If that answers, I hope.
Alan and Kelly?
You certainly got me convinced. I think we can't afford not to. And even if when this bylaw is into place, the EID can say it is a bylaw. It's not just voluntary anymore. So I'm certainly ready to make a motion to, what is the option 1? To proceed with the preparation of the said bylaw.
Thank you. Kelly?
My thing is, must be inspected. So how long am I, as a water user, going to have to sit at the boat launch to wait for inspection?
Great.
And is there any restriction? I mean, is there a limit? Will it be waiting 30 days? I'm being facetious.
Fair
but,
enough. No, for sure.
I've been at the boat. I'm not a boater, okay?
Right.
I'll be straight up. But I've been out to the lake lots. People pull up at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. They've got, 4 hours left to ride on the lake, and they're backing up as fast as they're driving in. So how's this going to work? And we have how many places to launch in the county of Newell? So help me understand how we can do that.
No, thank you, Kelly. Fair question. I can make one comment on that because I did have an interaction with a boater and expressed your concern going, well, he wanted to get on the water and all that. He was receptive when I explained to him and said that, it's for his protection. Like I said, if to get on the water and you're enjoying your boating right now, I said, would you want to go in water that's basically like some in the States right now, they're infested with aquatic invasive mussels? And he's like, well, no. So I said, well, this is a way of us preventing it. So there may be a timeline of you waiting to get your boat inspected to go on. But once it's inspected, the EID gives a sticker, so that way you don't have to get it inspected every time to help. Yes, and I can get Brandy definitely to explain a little further, but I did explain to him, because same question you had, do I have to do this every time? No, you don't. Once you're inspected, you're good for the season, unless, you know, again, Brandy will go more detail, but, and then I explained about the aquatic and the prevention part of it. So when I explained the prevention part, he's like, okay, I'm willing to wait because of what you're just explaining, but it's more giving that information out to the public and telling them, so that you're trying to explain, we're not trying to interfere and delay you on your enjoyment. There's a reason why we're doing this, and it's to let you have further enjoyment in future time. You want to expand on?
Yeah, so I completely
the
understand your concern, because when I worked at Dunmore, we had very long wait times. So when I came into the EID, I wanted to adapt the same protocols, but I wanted to make sure that it was streamlined and it didn't take 5-10 minutes for people to sit there, because you're at the launch, people want to get in the water immediately. And so we asked a series of questions. We just asked them where they were last, what water body they were in, if they've been out of the province or out of Canada. And then based on those questions, if they haven't been out of the province, it's like a 5-second inspection. We just make sure we fill the hall, take a good look at their engine, make sure nothing is suspect on there, give them a sticker and make them sign up while we're doing the inspection, and then they're good to go. We educate about the sticker program, and like John said, if you have the sticker, you're good to go whenever you come through a check stop. So like Rolling Hills, like the campground, or the Crawling Valley, or the campground. So want to make sure you check in at the office. They ask you the same question, but we don't do a lengthy inspection like we would. It's if anything, we do maybe if there's 2 people, maybe you'll do the same inspection, but it doesn't take more than 5 or 10 seconds. And then the only way it would be longer is if people have been out of the province, and you have to explain to them, like, unfortunately, you're going to have to go to this inspection station. So for the majority, it only takes, like, if we have a long line of 10 or 15 boats, it maybe takes about 2 or 3 minutes to get through all of them. If people don't ask questions, people like to ask questions, which is very good, so we can educate about our reservoirs and about irrigation and our sticker program, but it usually doesn't take very long, so.
And the sticker program, like we said, if you get a sticker,
Yes.
then it's good for that
Yes.
season, correct?
Exactly. So we hand out a sticker every year. They have to be renewed annually. But like John said, if you have a sticker, we kind of consider you low risk. We ask if you've been out of the province in the last 30 days. And if you haven't, you're good to go. Like I said, we might do like a really low key inspection, like just make sure we check the engine, make sure there's no water. But other than that, it's very straightforward and people get through pretty fast.
Great. Well, we have a motion on the table to recommend that we proceed with the development of a bylaw. I guess it'll have to come back to us.
That's correct, yeah. It would just be to go ahead further with the development of the bylaw.
Further discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brandy. It's nice to meet you, and I had no idea that the ID had hired somebody. So you're basically in charge of education and prevention and
Yes.
catching people and all of the above.
Yeah, during the winter, I try to educate as many people as I can to keep busy, because obviously you can't go boating in the winter. And then during the summer, I'm doing education, making sure that our signs are all up to date and inspections. And so summer's pretty busy, but it's been very good.
So the EID poached you then from the provincial government?
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Well, welcome to our community, even though you've been here for quite a while.
Thank you.
Hope you enjoy it like we do.
Yes, for sure. I love it so
Good.
far. So
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Thank
Thanks,
you, Council,
John.
and Merry Christmas.
You too.
What's 9-1?
9-1 is the Calgary Stampede Farm Family Award.
Okay. So we do go through this one every year, or we have at least since I've been around, and I think according to our records, a few years before that. So that's good news, and I think we still have some wonderful people that we could nominate for the award. But typically that part of the nomination process I leave up to the wonderful people on the other side of the table, because that's a relatively sometimes political decision, but there is on the back page, or I guess on my back page of the past winners, there's some great options there, and we've had great options come from you guys before too. So I'm happy to fill out the paperwork and send it to the ladies from the Calgary Stampede to make the nomination go through. I just need a name to do that too.
Do you have anyone from for this year? Marie, you're thinking?
I don't have a name, but looking at the years that we have given out these rewards or presented names, it will be Division 4 and Division 6 that maybe have to think about a person that they have in their division.
Isn't it more like Div 9?
What's that? Well, Div 9's had 3, so, I mean, the last one was a long time ago, but there's been 3 from Div 9, 3 from 8. I thought there was another area, 3 from 2. So I'm thinking that before we go back, not that it matters, there's no rules, but 6, you're thinking? And 2? No, 2's got 3. 4. 4 and 6, maybe should be thinking. Especially 4, 03. Yeah, 98.
I think the reason that this discussion is so hard to find somebody is because we have so many wonderful producers that fit the mold up for this nomination, right? But yes, certainly we've been away from Division 4 and Division 6 for the longest. I guess sorry, not necessarily the longest, but they've only had 2 per division.
Yeah.
So great ideas. On that options page, there are a few for Division 4 and Division 6, and there's also others that I probably don't have on this list. So you guys would probably know them better.
And there's quite a long list of possibilities on the page that follows, and there are some Div 4 and Div 6 recommendations. So maybe, Wayne?
Just going to say both of those recommendations I would go with, but I guess they're both neighbors of mine, so I don't really want to recommend one over the other.
The thing is that sometimes people don't want to be honored, correct, Todd?
Yeah.
So it might be something to start by speaking to them.
I can do that.
And,
yeah, I will do that.
you know, if the first one accepts, maybe you'll have to keep the other one in your pocket for the next
2 or
time.
3 years.
I don't know.
Yeah.
When's the deadline for the application, Todd?
The end of January is when I have to have all the paperwork.
I can have it next week for you.
Me and Wayne will work on it together then. If that's so, do we want to just maybe make the motion that it's from Div 4?
It's up to the council. Div 6. How about you? Are they good people? Those Div 6 people good too? Well, maybe we should look at them.
I really like Gary Evans in Division 6 also. But, you know, if we go with 4, that's okay.
There's still one more year.
Yeah, do next. Okay.
Yes, please.
I'd like to move that Todd and Wayne find somebody in Div 4.
Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. And on to the resolutions, 9.2.
I'm trying to make it so it doesn't squeak, but I'm not really that great with audio. Hoping that makes it better. I think it was coming through the speaker and then yelling back at itself somehow.
our volume is not coming out of our, your little, okay. Have a listen right now and see if, nothing is coming out of mine when I listen to the rest of you. And it's turned right up on my individual thing. Oh, perfect. There is a switch on the side. Yeah, no other side. No, Anne, Ariana, push this button. It's gotta be on sub. Thanks. It's got to be on sub. There's a little switch. Well, it's.
Hi, Molly.
Yeah. Perfect. How many years has it been? 6? We're getting there. Who turns off these buttons anyhow? All right. I am happy now.
All right, well, we have, oh boy. How did that happen? No wonder we had to, no, I'm not going to say. That's very loud all of a sudden. Doesn't it sound really loud? All right, so we got 14 resolutions to get through. I think I said 13 in the RFD, but I believe there was 14 in your agenda package. So I think this is for the conference in January. Everybody remembers the Ag Service Board conference. Many of you are attending, which is fantastic. The first resolution is about the Alberta Agriculture website. In fact, both of the first one and the second one are about the Alberta Agriculture website. When the Alberta government updated their website, they removed a lot of the old roping the web functionality, and I think a lot of the agricultural community really enjoyed the functionality that was there, especially a few things like the marketplace, the general stores, just a lot of the things that guys use are like the ag calculators or things like that. So pretty basic ones just to get some information back from the websites. I don't think there would be too much resistance to getting some of that functionality back. So I kind of had put check marks beside the first two, as in that we might support those ones. One is from the south, so Cypress County is the first one, and Mountain View in the central did the second one. And for whatever reason, they don't combine them unless they're exactly the same. Okay. The third one is the Weed and Pest Surveillance and Monitoring Technology Grant. This was a funny one for me because usually municipalities want to have some autonomy and do things a little bit on their own. But Woodlands County has asked that Alberta Agriculture provide a technology grant and personnel to assist municipalities. And essentially the idea is that they want everybody to be using the same collection system, whether it be for pest surveys, whether it be for weed inspecting. They want us to use the same technology to gather that data, and then we can share it easily. I think it's a little bit problematic. We use a product called Arc Collector for our weed inspecting stuff. And there's other municipalities that use that exact same technology, but we use it just a little bit different because our programs are a little bit different. Some people hand out weed notices whenever they find a weed. Some people don't hand out weed notices. Some people want to monitor how big a weed patch is over time. Some people just want to be able to get back to that weed site to investigate whether it's still there and work with the landowner. So I mean, there's so many differences between the political cultures in those ag service boards and the different areas, whether we're more rural, we're more urban. There's just different ideals behind the programs. So this one was a really weird one for me. I was surprised that anybody would want to be the same province-wide. So, and maybe Woodlands County will do a fantastic job of providing some good clarification on that, but to me it just seemed odd.
And I'm assuming that when Todd has feelings about it, it's that we would support those because it's the way you do business and it works for us, right? So I'm just going to keep moving through these.
We have 4 more minutes.
No, we've got longer.
All right, so the club root pathotype testing. This is I never really did understand why the provincial government didn't use their lab to do the pathotype testing. So I'm not sure if you guys were able to get through all of the background information. It outlines it pretty good. The idea is when you have club root in your field, it can be of multiple different varieties of club root. We currently only have resistant canola for 2 of those pathotypes. So we have 15 pathotypes that could be in our soil and affect all canola grown. So that would reduce yield, the same thing that club root does normally. So from the municipal stamp, or at least from the way we do things, if we find club root in your field, the idea is that we have club root in that field, we're going to manage that club root. We're not always necessarily managing for a different pathotype of club root. So what we've been doing is working with Mike at CDC, and he's doing the pathotype testing. So he sends it to Dr. Steven Strelkov, and they work through that so that they know and they can test the prevalence of different pathotypes in the province. So we monitor the club root in the field and making sure that the club root stays in the field and not move to the neighbors, and they're trying to manage something completely different. But what Big Lakes County has wrote here is that they just want the University of Alberta to be able to continue that pathotype testing and monitoring, which I don't disagree that there's a benefit to that for the canola industry, for farmers, for the seed dealers. I'm just not sure who's necessarily responsible to pay for that, whether it should be government, whether it should be the seed companies, or whether it should be the municipalities that are interested in that pathotype monitoring. Do you know what I mean? So they're asking for more, they're asking for money to do the pathotype testing, be sent to the University of Alberta. Does it have to be government money, or can it be the people that are interested in the results money?
So they want it to be government money in this, right?
And I'm not really familiar with how the U of A collects their money or pays their people or anything like that, but.
So it might be a good one to get more information on.
Probably.
Okay.
Good idea. The next one by Cypress County is the education campaign for cleanliness of equipment for industry sectors. If you'll remember, the last few years, Cypress County has been very passionate about having equipment dealers clean the equipment before it gets to its next and final maybe location. That wasn't accepted, so we actually, me and Kennedy Frandrick from Cypress County talked a little bit about it, and it was just, we weren't sure that there was ever a way that their board would not want to move forward with something because they did feel very strongly about it, but we didn't think that there would be any way to get some sort of regulation involved in that. So I think when she brought it back to their board, they talked more about it, and it kind of came down to, well, maybe these guys just need to understand more that they should be cleaning before it goes to the next place. So I don't think there's any harm in educating people. I believe they probably know already, but as in anything, the more work you do, the more it costs you, so the less they can do, the better, right? So maybe this will just allow them to understand the implications of moving weeds and pests around.
So this is just an education ask through Alberta, well, AA. Yeah.
Just like clean, drain, dry, this one will be, I don't know, clean cell plow, I don't know. So,
okay.
I'm definitely not a marketer. So the AFSC, this is another one for spreading regulated crop pests. And again, this one comes back to seeding canola on too tight of a rotation. We've seen this, or a variation of this resolution in the past, working through AFSC to kind of limit, or sorry, to make it detrimental for guys to grow canola back to back or on too tight of a rotation. I don't know that it went anywhere last time, and I really don't think it's going to go anywhere this time. I believe it was carried last time, but I don't know that AFSC necessarily wants to impose the different rates, I think is what it came down to last time. We obviously didn't agree with what AFSC had to say, but that was kind of where it stopped. So, yeah, maybe I tried to work through that one too quickly, but any questions about that? Nothing? All right.
Okay, we'll do one more, Todd, and then we'll switch over to our 1:30 delegation.
Perfect.
Thank you.
This one's a really fun one because we have obviously some beehives in our county as well. We just don't have the bears that attack them.
No Winnie the Poohs?
But it is an industry that we have in our province. I mean, this comes from Northern Sunrise County, and I think they're also a really big honey producing area as well. But the honey hives aren't necessarily, or they're not, sorry. I'm going to just stop and just take a second here, sorry. Yes, so the wildlife compensation program, so that's the one that pays if you have a calf that gets stolen, if you have a sheep that gets stolen from a large carnivore, which would be bears, cougars, eagles, wolves, but not coyotes. So I think that's where they're coming from, is just that these the beehives are on our landscape as well, that bears are, destroying them, and that there's no compensation for those honey producers for the wildlife affecting their business.
So have any of those requests over the years gone through AFSC and actually changed their regulations? Because we've had others, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I think we were adding stuff last year to the crops being able to be grown, haskaps, blueberries or something like that.
Yes, that's right.
I don't honestly follow it that well.
Okay.
And we do have a good contact now at AFSC, so maybe we could have him over for coffee and we could ask him about some of that stuff. I also don't take out insurance on my own, so I don't know all the ins and the outs of AFSC's insurance programs. You know what I mean?
There's lots of ins and outs for sure.
I think, like any insurance, I'm sure there's lots of outs.
Yeah.
But I think this one's a great one, and I think beehives are actually quite expensive, so to have them on the landscape with the wildlife, I mean, we all farm, we all have wildlife, that's great, but when they affect our production of things, that's when, there should be some compensation for those kinds of things. So.
Right. Okay. Clarence.
However, could you not build a fence around it?
You can, and that's what they do when we have elk populations that come into a bale stack yard and those kinds of things. But those are grants that are given to producers you can apply for grants if you want money to build those types of things too, right? Where there's not for beehives.
I guess the other part of it is, you need beehives, why are you in bear country? Winnie the Pooh land. Yeah. No, sometimes I think we look to government for a little bit more than we should. And sometimes people have to grow the crops that they can grow, and sometimes you have to move to those places. And are the bears, I think maybe they're expanding their territory, but I don't know. You know where I'm going with this. Yeah. All of a sudden, we have to now have another program for somebody who maybe shouldn't even be having beehives where they aren't.
Yeah, and I think I understand where you're coming from. This one's coming from Northern Sunrise County, which is pretty far to the north. And I guess, in that same breath, we don't want bees maybe in Northern Sunrise County. Maybe we shouldn't have cows close to the mountains for those same type of reasons, right? But I don't know that that's the road that we want to go down either, right? But I understand what you're saying, though, that if it doesn't work in an area, maybe there's a reason.
Well, we've got lots of costs with irrigation in this area. Maybe we should get a subsidy for having to put water on the land.
resolutions are usually about a lot of asks, right?
Totally.
Sometimes problems that we can't fix ourselves, there are a lot of asks. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you can figure out, do we have to have delegates vote? Oh, yes, we did. Perfect. So, Todd, we'll let you know when we are finished our 1:30 delegation and get you back to finish off those resolutions. Thank you. You're around, are you, today? Okay, perfect. Thanks. So we are going to go to our 1 o'clock, 1:30, thank you. The Scandia Lagoon lease, item 8.4. And welcome Nels and Mark, and we'll do some introductions around our table. I'm Molly Douglas, and I represent the northern part of the county, as you probably know. We'll move over to Lionel.
Hi, Nels. I'm from Division 10, which is north and east of Brooks.
Good afternoon, Nels. Division 2, Tilley, Hubie Callan.
Hi there, I'm Tracy Fife, Division 5, South and West around Brooks.
Anne-Marie Phillipson, Patricia area.
Hi, Nels. Surprised you're not someplace warmer golfing, actually. So, but I represent the area around Dutchess.
Good afternoon. You know I'm from Rolling Hills.
Hi, Nels. We've met. I'm Kevin, County Administrator.
Hi, I'm Kelly Chrisman. I'm from around Bazzano, Division 6.
Hey, Nels. I'm sorry I didn't meet you yesterday, like I said, but I got real busy. Sorry about that.
Good afternoon, I'm Ellen Unruh, and I represent the countryside around the village of Rosemary.
Good afternoon, Ariana Nielsen, Executive Assistant.
Lane Johnson, the Director of Corporate Services.
Okay, the reason I'm here today is we've got this notice from a lawyer that you're terminating the lease on our lagoon. We've sold to you in 2010. I kind of think that we were unhappy with what you did. In 2010, you had nobody else to buy or sell land to you. We bent over backwards to accommodate you, and we give up the oil revenue, which was over 10,000 at the time, new pivot, and we finally come to an agreement. You guys paid us 10,000, or paid us 10 years of oil lease, and we were supposed to get a long-term lease in return with the option to have it renewed.
So this is a quick summary of contract, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Mark, there's information in here, is there anything?
Yeah, I provided a summary of most everything that took place over the past 10 years, more or less, with the Hamlet of Scandia. We did have the Council and administration had the inkling to try to preserve the future of Scandia's lagoon system through effluent broadcasting and stuff. It was a negotiated acquisition where offer was presented by the County of Newell to the landowner, and the compensation was paid, as Nels has summarized for you, along with the surface lease compensation for additional years. And with that, the acreage was rented back at $30 per acre for a period of 5 years, as was drafted between the two legal firms of Doug Bell and representing Nels, and ourselves, the County of Newell, who were represented by Orville Shantz at the time, I do believe it was. With that, it was a 5-year lease. That's all I can recall from that, because that's what went down in the writing and submitted between both legal firms. Nels has been paying diligently, not on the 2 terms per year, but coming in at the beginning of the season and paying everything up front. And there's been absolutely no issues with the Pedersens leasing that land from us, other than the expiration period was back in 2014. So I think I've got everything summarized in the package as best I possibly can for council's consideration. And from what I understand with Nell's, it's, I had submitted the agreement to council, and it's, what is it, article, where's the renewal? Provisos. The option to renew is letter E, found on page 5 of the lease agreement under the provisos. With that, the option to renew if the lessee duly and regularly pays the rent and performs all the covenants and provisos herein contained on the part of the lessee, the lessor will, upon the expiration of the term hereof, grant to the lessee a renewal lease if requested in writing at least 60 days before the expiration of this term for an additional term as may be determined in the sole discretion of the Municipal Council of the County of Newell Number 4, at a rent to be determined by agreement and failing agreement by arbitration in the manner hereinafter mentioned and subject to the same covenants and provisos as herein contained, excepting the right of renewal. The amount of renewal rent, if the parties cannot agree, shall be settled by the award of 3 arbitrators or a majority of them, 1 to be named by the lessor, 1 to be named by the lessee, and the 2 thus chosen to select a third, at least 90 days before the expiration of this term, and their award or the award of a majority of them shall be made before the expiration of this term, provided that the expense of the said arbitration shall be borne equally between the parties thereto, or hereto, sorry. So the expiration of that agreement was December 31st of 2014.
Who is responsible for notifying to redo it?
The way that I interpret it, it's on the lessee to do the renewal in writing to the County of Newell, from what I just read to council. How does it say that? The lessor will, upon the expiration of the term hereof, grant to the lessee a renewal lease if requested in writing at least 60 days before the expiration of this term.
So that did not happen.
No, we did not receive a renewal letter in 2014.
But we didn't end the lease either.
Correct. Due to oversight of the expiration period, that is correct.
So what are the implications of that?
So the implications upon consultation with legal counsel is due to the ongoing continuous renewal year after year. The lessor, being the County of Newell, to serve notice to terminate, it was recommended that we grant 1 additional year, which would be for the period of 2020 ending December 31st, 2020, to the lessee in lieu of that.
So that would mean a year from now, the same option to, Mr. Pedersen would have the option to give the 60 days notice, or then that original agreement is over?
From the legal opinion that the county received, that would terminate the agreement ultimately. There would be no option to renew. Under legal counsel's opinion, there is no first right of refusal or anything as per the existing language in this lease agreement. Whether it was intended to be or not, it is not included in the language.
Okay.
So what you can fall back on with that is that it's in the sole discretion of the Municipal Council of the County of Newell if deemed appropriate by yourselves.
At the end of 2020, we're talking about that part.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Clarence?
I don't know if my age is catching up to my memory or my memory is catching up to my age, but well, I find I just cannot remember when you brought this forward to us. I can't remember exactly why we did what we did. Can somebody help me?
clarification the last time or originally?
This time, why we would have sent that notice. Sounds like it was something that we approved as a council.
Yes, so back when we formally spoke about it, it was agreed that due to the 2014 period lapsing, we've had an additional 5 years that the Pedersens have had access to that land outside of the original lease agreement, that termination should be served and we go to the public for tendering of the land lease.
And so now, basically, what the difference would be is that it would be in effect till 2020.
Correct.
Brian?
That's the part I'm having trouble understand. If our lease expired in 14 and we, for whatever reason, leasing not giving us notification, leaser not notifying the lease that the term was up, I don't understand why we are obligated to 2020 with us really not having a lease in place for the last 5 years. So that's the part that I'm confused about.
Just from the legal opinion of things, and cases where terms have lapsed in the past, it is recommended and suggested by legal counsel to grant a 1-year additional term, serving that notice, giving the Pedersens 12 months to adjust whatever operation they have in lieu of not having proper management of the lease in advance.
Brian?
So, okay, now thank you for that. And that does clarify something for me. Maybe I'm missing something here, but is there anything preventing the Pedersens from applying or bidding on the new tender?
Nothing.
Okay, thank you.
Well, when we made the agreement, we were of the opinion that we always had first right of refusal on when the lease came up for renewal. And that was, we would have never sold the land, I can tell you that. We weren't up to selling it. You guys approached us. It was the only place you had to put the lagoon. It was either that or buy land out from the EID 2 miles away and pump it. And so we bent over backwards to accommodate the county, and I just think that it's being a little short-sighted on their part, what they're doing now. I mean, we were of the understanding when we made the deal that when the lease was up, we would have first right of refusal if it was ever come up for no. And I thought, well, the county would let us know when things were going to change. Nobody did. We paid regular ahead of time, and we just think it's a bit short-sighted. It's been a family farm, and it's kind of our family operation. We don't want to lose it, but so that's my opinion. Take it for whatever you want.
So how did the right of refusal not get put into that contract?
I'm not sure myself, because Pedersens had their own legal counsel and we had our own, and why that language was not included, I can't answer that, and obviously we're short one legal firm these days in that recollection.
And it was signed off. So that's the way it was. It's an interesting situation, actually, because of that. I mean, if the right of refusal was in there, it would be a lot more clear, wouldn't it? Yeah. Other questions? Anne-Marie?
Well, I think we have a chance now to correct it. And if we go till 2020 with no agreement at all, and then we'll make an official agreement based on the tendering price that comes out of it, with first right of refusal in it, and then correct it. Start again.
Any other thoughts, comments? Clarence?
Well, we've also had situations, and I think we have to keep in mind where we like to have had land to put for sewage and not been able to get it. It sounds to me like there's been a little bit of fault on both sides. Let's start anew and let's get her done. I'm all for that.
Meaning what, Clarence?
to start. We're going past this day, and then we've got it past 2020, and at that point in time, we put it up for tender. Mr. Pedersen gets right to match anything that comes forward, and else we go with the highest bidder. Right to match, I guess is the word.
Right to match. Kelly?
No. That's not right. You don't. Who's going to bid on it if they know they're not going to get it? So we can't put something out. It goes back to the fuel pricing. Who's going to bid on something that they know they're not going to get? So we can't have right of first of anything. This is a municipal operation. We have to operate it for the best interests of everybody in the county. The Pedersens sold the land to us, and it's our duty to run that property to the best ability for everybody in the county. So Mr. Pedersen has an opportunity to bid on it the same as I do. And I really hope that you do and make that happen.
Any other thoughts? Ellen?
I think still as a county, we need to honor our agreements, and even oral agreements, as far what I know of the law, which is not a lot, even oral agreements do stand up in court. I believe we should honor our agreements.
Any other thoughts? Wayne?
I agree. I'm going to go with what Clarence said, but I would put in there that let's just make this a one-time 5-year lease. After that is open tenders, and at that time it will not be. After 6 years, when it comes up for leasing again, it is open, and whoever gets the highest bid gets it. Just a little add-on to what Clarence said.
So your idea is that rather than 2020, it would be 2025? Or
yeah, then it would be an open tender.
It was a legal recommendation that said to do it for 1 year?
That the county has no obligation, whether it's in court of law or otherwise, for more than 1 year.
Okay, this is Amory, sorry.
So what we haven't talked about yet, I don't think there is an oral agreement. I know where you're coming from, but we haven't talked about the $30 per acre.
What do you mean $30 per acre?
That's what it was in the past.
The next time would be open for tender, like Clarence said. That would in 2020. And then the Pedersens would have right to match it. In 2025, it'll be just open tender.
Yeah, kind of. When you rent land, like we've rented land from other people, and anytime it comes up, if you're the renter, you've got right of first refusal. That's just a standard practice in agriculture. I think everybody here has done it and dealt with it, and that's how it's in the legal term is that if you're renting a land that comes up for renewal, all you do is have to match whoever puts a bid in it. And another thing is, that land anymore, the only thing you can raise on that is feed for cattle. You can't raise anything on there for human consumption because the way they test stuff nowadays is parts per billion. you can't take a risk of sending it to the elevator. And so we've been raising barley and silage for the cows, and that's what we've been using it for. Thank you.
Well, I actually, I concur with the lawyer and with our staff. When we bought this land, Nels, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, we paid fair market value for it. And it was a price agreed upon. The lease dictates what our obligations are, and you've withheld every bit of your part of the lease, and we've upheld every part of our part of the lease. And you know, at some point in time, you know, we are looking out for all our ratepayers, and a fair market price for that land is, I think that's all we're asking, and we're asking you to bid on that, and we fully expect that you will be able to continue with that. When it comes to right of renewal, there might be leases that are like that. I lease land. I don't have that in my lease. But that, I'm not trying to dispute that they're not out there, but it's not automatic. I'm sorry.
Any other comments?
Well, like I say, we didn't approach the county to buy it. They approached us, and we wouldn't have sold it if I knew this was going to happen, because it was part of the family farm and still is. And I've got a son that wants to farm, and if we start losing land, I mean, what's the point of it? And like I say, to this day, if that would have been the case, I'd have said, go put your lagoon someplace else. It really bothers me that that's the way you treat people that does a favor for the county. Thank you.
Any other comments? So we have a number of different ideas, thoughts floating around. I guess somebody has to put it into a motion, see where people are at. The suggestion that Mark has come forward with, which involves the legal interpretation, is an extra year at the current rate, and then it's tendered. So that's one option. And with that, we could add in the first right of refusal. That was so that there's variations on that one too, or the term could be extended with the same right of refusal thing. I think that is important. Some time has to come into the picture for the greater good of the county. This was land perhaps that was received for the greater good of the county, but we paid for it. We paid well for it. Yeah, it's unfortunate this mistake was made. Lionel and Clarence.
Well, I think through the chair, for the Pedersen's security, I think a clause in there for a first right of refusal in the future would probably be prudent. And I think it does have to go to public tender, though. Municipalities can't deal with individuals and give individual deals. It has to go through a tendering process. So that I would suggest the 5-year period, lease agreement period would be a good one. And let's get everything in writing. These verbal agreements do not work. They never have. Everybody's memories tend to fade when it's in their favor. And so I would be prepared to make that motion with the 5-year agreement, with the right of refusal for the security of the present leaseholder and future leaseholders, because they may put investment in that property. And I think that's not a bad not a bad way to go personally. I've rented land for a long time too, and I felt I needed some security for myself. So that would be my motion.
Mark?
The one caution that I offer to council is through discussion with legal. It was Mr. Nels C. Pedersen and Mr. Eric Pedersen that were on the original lease. Eric is no longer part of that lease. As Nels has identified today, it is Nels, and he is looking at farming with his son. However, County Council wishes to word this. Is it capable of being passed on through the generations, or when does it end? Is it when Nels is done with that, or does it now just become the successors and heirs of the Pedersen operation, I guess?
There was no mention of that in the lease, the original, was there?
No, but from the legal opinion, both Eric and Nels were served termination notice because their names were both on the lease. Eric is no longer farming it. Nels has been doing that for the past 2 years. So we haven't known of that change until Nels and I were talking earlier this fall. And if his son is now going to be farming with him, if there is a change on the lessees, does that first right of refusal continue for all future heirs and executors of the lessee? If you follow that. That's my cautionary tale, because we've seen things get locked up multi-generationally because of that kind of thing in the past. And I'm sure legal can word that for us, that we will discuss before anything gets signed in the future.
Was that discussed with legal prior to today?
That came across as part of legal's opinion about the termination. Was when one stopped farming, technically the county had no obligation moving forward at all. So I would just caution that if we're going to honor this, if county council is going to honor this with Nels, that you may want to give consideration to how that is worded for the future.
This is not the only property we lease that way. We have another one in Rolling Hills. What is it? Is it similar?
Oh, sorry. That one was similar in nature, but right now it sits in one person's holdings. It is not a joint farm operation, so therefore it will terminate when that period is ended, which is next year. And I don't have it with me, so don't quote me on this one, but I believe the language is just about identical between the two agreements. So unless we receive in writing 60 days in advance of the expiration date, it will end. And then we would go for public tender. If the lessee submits that in writing, then we would look at the option to renew.
So a typical lease wouldn't go in perpetuity.
Yeah, no, I can't say it. I had the word in my head, perpetuity.
Whatever, you know what I mean. That's a unique part of a lease.
Yeah.
And the first right of refusal.
Generally, leases, anything that I've dealt with in my short life of leasing anything, whether it's a home or an apartment, rent or whatever, you can't just hand that down to your next sibling. It's a new lease agreement.
Well, I thought my intention was that the lease would be a 5-year lease and renewable every 5 years. So you would bid on it, it would go to tender every 5 years, and you'd have to bid on it. If somebody outbid you, then you had the right to match that bid.
Okay, so in this case, if it's Nels and his son that put in the bid because Nels' name is currently on the lease, and they get the next 5-year term, and sorry Nels, I'm looking at the age of you right now, you're not going to farm forever. After that 5-year period, if it is only Nels' son that puts in the next bid, I want to be sure that Nels and his son understand that that is a change in the leaseholder. So that technically would not be a renewal or first right of renewal that County Council would have to honor moving forward.
It would go out for tender with no ability to match the bid.
Well, technically, if I was somebody looking at leasing land, I would always put two people's name on it then, because then we are always capable of having a successor or heir to be able to get that rather than somebody else. And it would never change hands. So you might as well, County Council might as well consider a 99-year lease agreement on it. And
there's nothing in this contract that was signed about that.
no.
Okay.
But that is language that we can work on over the next period with the 1-year extension that the lawyer advised administration to roll out with the termination notice. And we can work on that language to bring back to council to make sure that you're satisfied before we sign a future 5-year renewal. Just we've seen some of these things where even in our own community where people are trying to negotiate things on their own behalf through other means, and I'm just urging council some caution on how the language rolls out about it, even with your motion.
So you're confident we don't need further legal advice on any of this?
I can seek further legal advice before anything is made, if that's council's preference. And I guess then I would have to also encourage Mr. Pedersen to consult legal himself to figure out what they would like to have in a lease agreement, and try to blend those two together and then present to council for ultimate confirmation. And
all right, well, in summary here, Lionel has made a motion, and it would be for similar to, well, not really, it's a 5-year lease that he's recommending, which would take us to 2024. Which, wouldn't it? 20, 21, 22, 23, 24?
well, Councillor Hammergren said 5 after this 1-year extension to turn it to 2025.
I'm looking at Lionel made
So
a motion.
I'm not clear either yet.
He said 5 years with the first right of refusal.
If we've already granted the 1-year extension, I think we should honor that. And then start the 5 years after 2020. So the 2025 for the term of the lease.
Did we grant something?
As far as the names go on it, maybe we do need legal counsel on that. I'm not sure.
Well, if we're not sure, I think
yeah,
we need to.
I think we need legal counsel on that one.
Brian.
I'm not concerned about that part. The fact that it's going to be retendered every 5 years, the Pedersens, whether it's Nels or your son, have the option to sign that tender in 5 years. That gives you 10 years basically of leasing this land. And at that point in time, if it's retendered every 5 years, the county is getting a fair deal for what we're asking for our land. And I have no problem re-signing a lease that says, I have the option to re-sign it, providing that there's a tender process in place. I think that's my problem with this lease, is that we've gone 10 years now, and the value for the land has gone up considerably, but the value of the lease has gone up considerably too. And we haven't kept pace with our tender. And I hope you realize that, Nels. It's not personal, but it's a business. And if we go through this process, and I mean, we can seek further legal counsel, but I don't have a problem with it. If it's yourself or your son in 10 years, hopefully we're both still around. That's great. But anyways, the tender process, if it's in place, you're going to get a fair market for the county's going to receive fair market for their lease, and the grower is going to obviously put the money on, and if a neighbor or somebody else decides that they can farm it by providing more money for that, and you have to match it, well, then we've still received that money. That's the purpose of a tender.
Okay, so I go back to the motion, which is the first right of refusal after this 1 year, taking us, because we made a motion already on that, which would put us to the end of 2020. And then the Pedersens would have another 5 years. Is that correct, Lionel? Is that what you're saying? But it would be tendered then? At the
It would go to tender.
At the end of the
first. In 2021, it would go to tender. For the year 2021 to 25. Okay. It would go to tender.
So 1 more year with as is, basically. And then it would go to tender for the next 5 years.
The first right of refusal for the Pedersens for that 5-year period.
Is that clear, Mark? Do you understand what, is that clear to everyone here, what's being proposed?
I believe I understand that. I think the only point of clarification is that first right of refusal always going to be available, or is it a one-time only? Sorry to continue to complicate it, but just to be clear.
Kelly?
On your point, when you say always, do you mean to Mr. Pedersen or to every lease? I was reading bigger picture in your question.
The reason I ask is because legal has advised that generally it's for one time only. If it's for perpetuity, then we should be making that very clear in the next lease, because if I'm not here or somebody else isn't here and we interpret this, we're going to be around the council table again talking about it.
I'll share a personal experience. We rented from the town of Bazzano hay around the airport for many years. It was a 1-year lease. You have no guarantee from year to year whether you're going to have that lease. There are people lined up who would take that lease because that's a viable commodity in our area. So we have to be looking out for the best interests of the entire county. So I think it needs to be an open tender with no right to trump the bid. If there's going to be a lockdown on it, why would anybody tender on it? Just
There's no lockdown on it. If they don't match it, you buy it.
right, but there is a lock because the Pedersens have the opportunity to match that bid.
Right.
So in that sense, there is a lock. No.
Clarence,
You can argue till the cows come home whether.
I think we have.
Yeah, we have.
They're home, Clarence, they're
I've
home.
already done my milking for the day. Yeah, but what I'm going to say, the value of what we get for that lease, knowing that there will be a right of first refusal, will be higher than lower. So when you can ask yourself, when are we doing the best, if you believe that, when are we doing the best thing for all residents of the county? Because that's what we're looking at. When do we make the best deal for everyone? Because that's who we represent. And I'm suggesting that with that right of first refusal, because farmers farm long term. And that means something. And if that's next door to you, you're going to bid more. And if you know that if one of your neighbors wants it, he knows that too if he gets it. And if it becomes too much for somebody, they'll lose it. But at that first stage, if you know that that's going to be long term and it's there for as long as you're alive and maybe even as long as your son is alive, well, you'll pay more for it. So when just don't worry too much about when we're going to get the most for that lease, because it's a toss-up. It depends on conditions, it depends on profitability of farming, it depends on all kinds of things, but I'm not scared of putting a safety on it for people, because that's the way people farm. And that's why I suggested it in the first place. And I know what people like, and that's has some security. Do we have to be afraid that nobody else is going to bid on it? Not in today's world, boy, I'll tell you. Nels is going to have to make sure that he bids right. Or they're not going to say, well, he's going to get it anyway. No, they're going to make sure that property is, because property is getting scarce, and certainly in our neck of the woods. And so I'm not scared about not getting full value by putting a safety on it for those that have had it before.
Lyle?
I think that safety clause is as much value to the leasee as the leaseor, being the county. Because we want some security and make sure somebody's there doing a good job for us also. So that's why I think it's important to have it in there for our benefit as much as the leasee.
So again, I turn to Mark, if we went ahead with Lionel's motion, or do you feel like we need to get it checked out from a legal perspective before we confirm it?
Well, the lease agreement should be updated anyway because it's 10 years out of date. There's a lot of legal terms that have been changed and stuff like that. To have something like this built in, I don't know what the language looks like. So that's why I'm seeking that clarification from you today, that we can continue with the 1 year as currently served. And the legal firm apologized to me because that termination notice got mailed out before I was made aware of it. Nels was just about in the office about the same day that I was made aware of it. So that one kind of caught me, and there's been some significant apologies on their part. After the 1 year, I guess I would be expecting a 60-day request in writing for option to renew to take us from January 1st, 2021 through to December 31st, 2025. That's how I'm understanding Council's discussion has gone so far with Lionel's motion. And then following that, it would be a public bid of which the Pedersens have the first right of refusal to match the high bid. Have I got that summarized? No.
There's people who want it, or I see heads moving around the table to go public after the 1 year, and there's other people who thinks it would go public after the 1 year plus 5 years. Is that correct? Is that what the confusion is?
Okay, that's all I'm looking for clarification on.
So Lionel, what was?
The 1 year was a freebie.
Just the one?
You got a freebie, Nels. But after that, it goes to public tender. Yes, with first right of refusal.
Just for that next 5-year term, or forever?
That's where we need legal counsel to see how we would word that. Because I'm not certain. I'm not a lawyer. Thank goodness. Did I say that out loud?
You did, it's okay. There's none here. So is everyone clear on that? And so should we ask Mark to get feedback for that, for us? Is that what I'm seeing around the table? That's the concept. So Lionel, I guess it's not really a motion, a suggestion? Is that what we're thinking?
I could change the terms, yes, to a suggestion.
For suggestion for legal feedback on that idea, and I'm going to say it again so we are all clear. The next year, 2020, they've got it till the end of 2020, and at that point in time, there's a 5-year bid comes up, public tender, right of refusal. Oh, thank you. Okay. Brian.
I know I look confused, and it's just on one little piece of this. The refusal, that's on the new 5-year bid, because the way I understand that we've discussed it here, Els and his son are going to bid on this tender if they so choose. In 1 year, they don't get that right of matching somebody else's. They have to bid on it next year. Right? See, and that's not the way I read it. The way I understand it, we would go to tender next year. It's an open tender. There's no, and then with that new lease, that 5-year lease, there is a right of refusal for the following subsequent lease or leases. That part I'm like Clarence. I don't care. I just want an open tender for the land that's up there. And once that has been established, then we go forward from there.
I thought 2020 was the extension that we granted them because of all this confusion. That's what I was intending. And then the 5-year after that goes to tender for the 5-year period after 2020. With the right of refusal.
That, Mark?
Yes, December 31st of 2020, or somewhere in that period, now the ghosts don't like me, there will be a public tender where the Pedersens have first right of refusal to match the high bid. That is what you are saying. 5-year lease, and council is, I'm not saying you're unanimous, but what I'm understanding is that that first right of refusal will continue to be in that agreement from that point forward. Only for the first 5. That's what I need.
Boy, it's a good job we just didn't send them off. Kelly.
The first right of refusal, in my mind, does not start until 2021. We cannot change the old agreement. Okay. Is that what? I heard something different there. Okay. As long as we're getting it.
The question is after that.
After that, the new lease agreement.
After the 5 years runs out, right? That's what people are debating now. Tracy. Oh. Lionel.
I would, and there again, since we're going to council to get advice on this, that is a question I would ask them. Whether we continue in the 5-year increments after that with the first right of refusal. And in my mind, that's what I would like to see. Because it's security for the county to have a good renter there. And if they have that little carrot, I think that's kind of it costs us nothing to have that. And so why not let them have it? And it's a little bit of security for the county to have a good renter in place. I hope it's you, Nels, for 20 more years.
So Mark, you can gather some information on the whole concept of how the 5-year...
We have about 11 months to work through this, yep.
Yeah. Okay, any further confusion? Tracy.
Okay, can we just clarify it one more time with me?
No, absolutely not.
What I'm
kidding.
Getting mixed up on is so after 2020, we send out a request for bids for lease on this land. Now, anybody can bid, and they're going to bid for 5 years. But when that comes up, does Nels have the first right of refusal to match for the start of 2021? Yes. Okay, good.
And our further question is, if we decided to make it continue that first right of refusal, we want some legal counsel on that. I think we've got it. Nels, I hope you're not more confused by all of this today.
No, I'm not. I've dealt with leases for a lot of years, and so it's no big deal to me. I appreciate you listening to me, and thank you.
Well, we appreciate our relationship with you through the years too, and don't want to, we just want to be fair, truly. It is my goal, and I think everyone's goal around the table, to be fair to you and to fair to your neighbors, I guess, or all of those vultures waiting to swoop. So thank you for coming in, and hopefully we'll get this further information from Mark before long and be able to carry forward. Wayne, are you going to make it worse?
No, I just want to, Nels is a great guy, but his road is the worst road in the county. He keeps telling me that every time I have coffee with him.
I hope you have a good Christmas season, Nels. Thank you for coming in. You bet. Thank you. All right, Todd, back to agricultural-related lease dispositions. That is item 818. How's the hockey game looking, Clarence? We're still open. Oh, did you?
All right, thanks for having me back. It's great to be here.
918, sorry.
So we're on agriculture-related lease dispositions, is that correct?
Yes, we're into leases.
All right, well, when I read the background from Big Lakes County, it sounds like the process to transfer lease lands takes far too long. It also, it had in there that there's only 2 FTEs, which I believe is called full-time equivalents. Yeah. So that means there's basically 2 people that work on lease transfers. So I'm not sure, in their resolution they're asking for the transfer of management of public lands, agriculture-related lease dispositions to the Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry, which I think right now they currently sit with Alberta Environment, right? So I'm not sure that transferring departments is going to make it any better if it's just moving those same 2 people into a different area of the government. So to me, it sounds more like the process is broken and not necessarily about who's operating the process. But it's an interesting ask.
That's why resolutions are so funny, eh?
They're political, and on this side of the table, I'm not very political, so I don't always understand all that.
Oh, you're as political as all get out, Todd Green, so don't tell me that.
Just because I can BS does not mean I'm political.
So we're going to listen to this one.
I have no idea what else to do on that one, yeah, because I mean, it's just, to me, it's transferring two people from one department to another, and I don't know that that's going to make that process any better.
Right.
But
And
maybe they know more than they're telling us.
Yeah, it's interesting. Okay.
So this emergency livestock removal one from the County of Northern Lights, I thought that was, it's an interesting idea. I'm not sure why it needs necessarily to be a resolution unless they came up against some roadblocks in their area. They have some public lands up there in Northern Lights, lots of grasslands, lots of grazing land, or sorry, lots of tree lands, lots of grazing lands. And it looks like when they had the fire, they had no place to move all these animals to. To me, that's a great conversation to have with your neighbors, and if neighbors are leaseholders or neighbors of the province, they should for sure be able to find a place, a safe haven for these animals during an emergency. And I'm just wondering if maybe this has become a resolution because they came up against some roadblocks for creating those emergency areas.
Appropriate to listen and get more information on that one then.
Yeah, I guess I only have the information that you guys have too, right? And I don't always call unless there's something really, really weird. But it just sounds like there must have been a roadblock somewhere along the line. Great one to listen to. Good idea. Mandatory agriculture education in the classroom. I think we've all been pushing this cart uphill for a long time, and it's not quite there yet, but maybe we'll get there. So this one to me seems like an okay one to support. All right, so to reinstate a shelter belt program, I thought this was a fantastic idea with the shortest, therefore be it resolved, I think I've ever seen. So I'm not sure, Alberta Agriculture and Forestry implements a shelter belt program. And I don't know what that means. So this is, yeah, anyways, I don't know if Brazos County is looking for free trees, if they're looking for grants, because if they're looking for grants, we already have that under CAP. If they're looking for resources, there's lots of publications. And if they're looking for design guidelines, there's lots of those too. So to ask for a shelter belt program is very open-ended. I mean, I love the idea, but...
It looks like there's no period there, so I think there's more to come.
Oh!
You know what, they could put a tree in front of, what's his name, Bart Guillon's house, and they could have a shelter belt. He's a reef. So, there might be a need for more info on that one.
A short resolution like this, almost guaranteed it's going to be amended at least 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, they'll have to have a 2.5-hour session on how to extend it and then subtract it. No, it'll be a good discussion. I like the idea of having, when we had the PFRA program, which was a federal program, not provincial, but when we had that program, we planted lots and lots of trees around this county, and I honestly believe that we need more, but one of the detriments or downfalls is that people have to pay for the trees, and if you're doing multi-row, long, true shelter belts, it's very costly, because you're looking at thousands of trees, and you're looking at anywhere from $2.50 to $4 a tree, depending on what you're planting. So it's costly, there's no doubt.
And it's interesting, a lot of farmers are just getting rid of them, right? Bigger equipment, and with no-till, the dust doesn't blow, and who needs trees?
Well, you need to get out of jam once in a while.
Back to Manitoba.
Go have a coffee with Clarence in February or March when she's windy outside. But you're right, there's some great advancements in agriculture that have limited some of the need for it. Certainly the more expensive land has given us some need to remove and farm as much as we can, but that sometimes leads to why we need more trees as well.
Agreed.
And that's as political as I'm going to get about that. All right, so we'll definitely have to hear more about that. Thanks for listening. This one comes from Willow Creek, and we don't actually remember if we agreed to it or not when we went to the South region, but it did pass in the South Ag Service Board meeting. Basically, if we remember, there's large herds of elk that come out of the mountains. They hit the foothills. Some of the first landowners don't allow hunting, so these elk find a refuge during hunting season. After the hunting season, come out and ruin fences and bales and cropland and everything else. They're asking that those guys that don't allow hunting also don't get compensation for the damage those herds do.
So my question is, how do they figure out who allows hunting?
It's a great question, Molly.
Like truly, Anne-Marie.
And how many hunters? Because that's what we said when we were in Lethbridge. If you allow one, it's not going to solve the problem, but you still get your compensation because you allowed them.
Sorry, the idea is valid. It's just the implementation of it. How does a person do that?
And does it mean that if you own the land, you're not counted? You've got to let in, I mean, if I'm a hunter and own land, that's not good enough. I have to let in other people. Does it have to be outsiders from the city, or people from my family don't count? Like, there's a lot.
We're going to run it on an index system.
So many points for a downtown Calgary person.
Lots of questions. Lots of questions. Okay, I'm going to move on. The Federal Health Animals Regulations, this one comes from the MD of Pincher Creek. Again, we discussed this one at the South Region Conference. The data requirements that CFIA is looking for is pretty extensive when it comes to the movement of livestock, and we currently don't have really great systems for collecting that data. I guess I'm not saying that everybody might be in this same boat, but many producers don't have the tag reader requirements to do cows on and off every trailer into every single different pasture, every place with a different what's it called? Premise ID. So I think there's some technology that needs to be, I don't even know if it exists yet, but some technology that needs to be created so that it makes it a little easier for guys to monitor their movements. Maybe it's something that goes on the back of a truck. Maybe it's something that, maybe it's better tags get long range readability. So I think the idea to wait on this one is good. I think we agreed with it last time as well. And this one I also don't understand a lot about, again, from Northern Sunrise with the bees, made in Canada versus product of Canada. Reading the background, it's just basically one letter from James B. Musgrove. Kind of outlines a little bit about how things are labeled. And I think there's always lots of questions when it comes to labeling, whether it's organic, non-organic, non-GMO, GMO, all the rest of those kinds of things. The labeling is always comes down to the legal description. So I guess Northern Sunrise is thinking that CFIA should amend their guidelines so that product of Canada and made in Canada claims do not include pure products such as honey. I'm guessing that honey is not something that's shipped in bulk and blended off. Isn't that what it sounds like? It's not.
Well, so I know, like Alan Philpott has told me a little bit about this, and it's more related to honey that's coming into the country. And so I'm not exactly sure what the objective is whether there are companies guilty of doing the same thing, where you could actually take like a sugar water and blend it with honey, and according to CFIA, the inspection, whatever, if they put it under a microscope and see pollen, it's considered honey. It might be 95% sugar and 5% honey. And I think that's where the lingo is getting a little bit muddy. You know, there is producers out there that are marketing pure Canadian honey, and it is, but they're competing with a lesser quality that is also marketing under Canadian honey. It might not say pure Canadian honey, but it says Canadian honey. So I'm not exactly sure. I'm reading between the lines. And I know, Clarence and I can talk to you about this when it came to butter. When we were still in the industry, there was similar things happening where they were bringing product into the country and labeling it as butter, and it was only a percentage of the butter. It wasn't pure Canadian butter. So
I've read about it, and it's to do with China. Totally. What's that? Yeah, I don't know about that.
That's where the problem is you could have any company could market it as a product of Canada and piggyback the products that are high quality, 100% pure, using that same lingo and really not meeting those standards of the higher quality products.
So it reflects badly on us.
I think that's the intent, but I guess I would put a question mark and listen to their explanation about what they truly want to achieve in this, and hopefully that'll become clear. Are you the other voter?
When you guys do resolutions for RMA, do you vote on each individual one in this room before you go? No?
Similar to what we've done here today, Mark, or Todd, we wait for more information. Some of them we know for sure we're voting against. We all vote. We have machines.
Oh, right.
We have click-a-pads. So even if we voted here yes, they don't know if I do it. So it's, it's a little bit different than, but RMA tries hard to sort of usually put motions together so we don't have duplication, because we have, 30 last, 27, yeah. So
Just curious, because there's so much muddy water in these resolutions and reading between the lines, and I don't even know how to make a decision without physically talking to the municipality. And I mean, it's okay for me to do that, but probably not the other 500 people that are going to be at that conference, right? So anyways, that was just my stupid question today.
not stupid. We wait on the people to present and then ask them, ask questions, or the people that are against it and stuff. So lots is done right at convention that day. So don't worry, you're doing your job just fine. Was that political? All right. Kevin.
So if we can take a 10-minute recess and council can fill out anything that they haven't filled out by the 12 noon deadline, because I promised the girls 3 o'clock would be the max.
Okay.
If you could do that, I'd really appreciate it.
Absolutely. We will recess till 3 o'clock. Thank you, Todd. Merry Christmas. We will move on to item 10.3, just the light topic of review of electoral boundaries and division numbers. Thanks, Lane.
Molly, I had asked Todd, I needed to ask Todd a question that I thought some of you might be interested in before he left. Could we go to that now?
Absolutely.
Thank you. So at the December 5th council meeting, payment register, there was a check made out to the County of Warner, number 5, by the way, for $2,391 for a rabies survey. And I asked Todd to refresh my memory about the rabies program that we're participating in, because I knew there was one there, but I haven't heard about it for a number of years. Just wondering what's going on.
Well, thanks for the question, Lionel. And I appreciate the heads up so I could run and get the report, which was going to make this a lot easier. And I like that you go with the map numbers too, because I always tell people we were number 4 on the map, but number 1 in your heart, right? But anyways, sorry, and not to take up too much of your time, but yeah, the county, we partner with Cardston, Warner, Lethbridge, Cypress, Tabor, and we run, we do a little rabies monitoring. So it's actually more, what we do is we pay a guy to trap skunks and raccoons, and kind of the idea is to maybe if we trap them, we might find a skunk or a raccoon that has rabies and kind of be ahead of the game. So Phil Merrill, if everybody remembers Phil Merrill, works for Alberta Agriculture, and he has for like 42 years. He's retiring next spring. But anyways, he tells us that rabies runs on a 7-year cycle, and it typically comes in from Montana or Saskatchewan. We haven't had that 7-year cycle since I've been here. So we assume it's coming at some point in time, and we kind of want to be ahead of the game. So they monitor, like I said, from the Montana border up, and then we partner with them. And I guess it's changed quite a bit. We used to be finding more numbers of skunks and raccoons when we maybe had a few more old yard sites, kind of along the Bow River, because that's where we monitor from again, is from the south. We've had a few of those have been cleaned up, and our contractor actually mentioned that he's having a difficult time finding the right locations to trap anymore. And we had a good discussion about it, and it's reflected in his numbers. I mean, he only trapped 1 skunk and 3 raccoons, and then a fox, a porcupine, a cat, and a rabbit. But we let the good stuff go. We just euthanized the skunk and the raccoon. So he has 20 sites from Scandia to Rolling Hills that he sets up on, and he tries to get as many of those kind of critters as he can. If anything looks like it's got to be tested, he sends them away for testing. So we pay for his time and his mileage, and that's about what it comes out to be.
There have been no incidents of rabies for a long time that I can remember, because they used to always report it in the news. So.
Yeah, I think the most recent thing they thought a bat in kind of, I think it was in the Medicine Hat kind of area, had was acting like it, but I don't even know if that was ever confirmed. So, but yeah, that's why we monitor, because we assume one of these years is going to be that 7-year cycle, but we haven't seen it yet. And it's probably been 10 years since we even heard of an increase in Saskatchewan. So it's been a while. But we still have all the supplies to, if we do get an incidence of rabies, we have the supplies to depopulate the skunks throughout the county, not just on those borders. But yeah. So thanks for the question. Nothing else on rabies?
About gophers. That was a good report you sent us on gophers. That was actually really good.
Okay, well, strychnine, that was a fun report. And I'm not sure if I outlined it in that email, but so it essentially said exactly what, there was like a 1988 report on hawk nesting, in fact. And I think it was when me and Will were doing a little bit of research on hawk nesting and, where we can put these things. Hawks essentially eviscerate their prey. So when they pick up a live gopher, when they pick him up, they essentially rip his guts out and then eat the rest of them. So that's exactly what this kind of report ended up saying, was that the animals, the predators that we're worried about, weren't eating the parts of the gopher that had the strychnine in them. So even if they were eating a poison gopher, the incidence of them eating the strychnine would be very low. So that was kind of a cool finding, and I hope that Health Canada reviews that. I thought it was really good. Paid for by Saskatchewan too. Who'd have thought? But they have a lot more gophers in that southwestern portion of Saskatchewan than we even do. So I don't know what they got going on down there. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the read.
I haven't read it yet, but I want to, did you say the hawks eviscerate and eat the insides of the gopher, and so, or,
The other way around, actually.
okay.
From my understanding, and if I'm getting the word eviscerate right, they take the guts out and they eat the rest of them. They eat the muscles. Yeah. Well, and the deer mice and the other gophers, I guess. Hmm.
So this one's an interesting topic. I hope you've got some energy and some enthusiasm for it. It's not the first time it's been before council. We have had discussions about this over a number of years. And it's also interesting that this council isn't the only one dealing with this. As I was driving back and forth this week, I was listening to CBC Radio and they were interviewing one of the city of aldermen for Calgary. And Calgary's going through the same conversation. So it's not unique to the county. The situation that we're in right now is really the result of an evolution that has taken place. I think that it was in 1989 I had indicated that the decision was made to move from 9 council members to 10 divisions within the county, and really that was because one of the divisions had grown significantly in population, and rather than realign the boundaries completely among the 9 divisions that existed at that time, they just cut the one in half and created Division 10. Since 1989, it was, well, we haven't had any historical information that determines the population by division until we conducted a census in 2009. And then StatsCan also released census results in 2016 that allowed us to track the county's population by division as well. So it's that gap between 1989 and 2009, or 1987, sorry, 2009, we had no information as to what was actually happening to the distribution of the county's population. But we know from 2009 on that we have a significant discrepancy in the population across the divisions that exist within the county right now. And that discrepancy is getting worse over time instead of better. So the decision that council needs to make is, are you wanting to take steps to correct that at this point in time? Really, the principle that we're talking about is one of the essential pillars of democracy, proportional representation, one person, one vote. And that is not happening the way it's set up right now within the county. So steps can be taken, probably should be taken. It takes time to initiate and complete that process. I've outlined in the report what the timelines are in order for this to be in place in time for the October 2021 election. We've got the time that's required if we start down that path right away, as opposed to pushing it off and making a decision a year from now, which would be pretty well too late to try and act on it. We've provided some options for you, and I guess what the suggestion is that yes, we can focus on the boundaries that are in there right now, but I think that the bigger conversation needs to take place at this time is, are you wanting to proceed? If you want to proceed, what process should we put in place so that there is an opportunity for input to be provided by residents of the community as to how these boundaries should be established that will determine the way the governance of the county takes place for the next, could be 20 years. So that's really the issue.
It's good information, Lane. Thank you for the work on it. So, any Any thoughts, comments? Tracy?
Well, I think it's great to look at, for sure, the numbers, for sure. I think that it is a good plan to move forward in that direction. I also like the idea of going down one division and going to 9 councillors, and then to kind of just create that where it's just not an even number. And I think that with the amount of population that we have in the county, I believe that we have a lot of councillors, and I think that's where I'm looking at anyways, is what I'd like to see.
So from 10 to 9? Yeah. Anne-Marie?
Yeah, I agree with Tracy. I like the proposal. Good job. 830 to 850 people in each division. Yeah, I think this is a good start, and let's not put it off too long. Let's get this in front of the public, and we'll get some feedback where, you know, I think it's something that we need to do to straighten out the numbers, so it shouldn't be a big issue.
So anybody else think we should go to 9 and move things around so that we have a, what were your numbers? 800 to... Any other comments? Lionel?
The only thing I didn't like was the geography of Div 5, that little panhandle on the bottom. I don't know what the population of people are in that area, but I can't imagine it being very much. I just like to snip that right off and move it into Div 4.
Having said that, do you like the idea from 10 to 9?
Well, I have no problem with that at all. I don't really, you know, other than the population differential, other than that, I wouldn't do anything, but it doesn't matter to me. 9 is fine. 10 is fine too. I don't really care.
So that's maybe a first question. Excuse me. Does everyone support the concept that we should try to balance out our divisions so that we don't have 1,000 in one and 300 in another? Is there anyone who disagrees with that? So everybody's thinking the same on that. That we need to redistribute the population at least to have the power around the table pretty equal as far as the representation of. So that's good. We all agree on that one. Okay, so we've got 3 people who said 10, moving to 10 to 9. Lionel could stay at 10 or 9, but the idea of moving to 9. Anyone else want to express an opinion? Clarence.
Well, I for a long time thought we should go to 7, but then I think, well, 2 people gone, then you only have 5, so maybe that's not such a healthy way to go. So I'm fine with 9.
Brian, also? Oh. Heads nodding. Kelly and Wayne? We're just talking about reducing from 10 to 9, and if Hubie?
I'm in favor of that.
Hubie's in. Ellen, does that mean you're fine with it? Okay, so it looks as though we are agreeing on two things then, to reduce from 10 to 9 and to balance out the numbers. This is too easy, you guys. Kelly?
Are we agreeing to take it to our ratepayers as a proposal? Is that what we're agreeing to?
I would think if we've got something that to take.
That's what I understand too.
I think we should also, I mean, the option to stay at 10 obviously could be there too, but yeah. Wayne? Use your mic. And I'm sure there's lots of problems with the maps.
Bow City. It's
So-
off on its own. That's it.
And that's, I
That
mean,
could be looked at.
absolutely, there'd be, it's like Lionel mentioned, the panhandle, and so maybe, Lane, to take it out to the public, what sort of information it would be 10, we're looking at definitely moving the population around a bit to get a balance, and then the 9 or 10, that council looks as though they're supporting pretty strongly the idea of 9, and then how much information would we want to take out to the public?
Well, I guess one of the things would be, are you wanting to go to the public with a map that has some boundaries on it already, or do you want to just say we're looking at going with 9 and we want some feedback on what those boundaries should be? If we throw a map out there, then the thought process is going to be that they've made decisions.
We've made another decision.
We're just asking them to either stick a stamp of approval on it or say they don't like it.
That's why I want to be cautious. Clarence?
One of the reasons the last project got out of the way was because we didn't have enough information. Get those lines there and let people criticize them.
And put across that no decision has been made.
Here, staff drew up some lines that made sense, and we tinkered with a few just to make lines straight or something, but other than that, that's what it is.
So let's have a look at the map with 9, and some of you have some, excuse me, feedback.
So
Is
one,
it 02 or 22? Which version are we looking at?
this one is version 2 of the 9 divisions. The version 22 has all of the background detail in it as well.
Okay.
It's the same divisional boundaries, it's just got additional layers of information in it.
Gotcha.
With this option, it's going to become apparent that the loosely knit sense of community that has developed within some of the divisions is going to be split. You no longer have Scandia, Bow City, Rainier in Division 4. You will now have Rainier in Division 4. Scandia is going to be in Division 1. Bow City would be in Division 7. So those kind of changes are going to be taking place with this particular layout. No matter how you do it, if you're redistributing the population, there is going to be some of the communities that have had a loose boundary around them that are going to be disrupted in the future. And it's not to say that those boundaries have to be kept the same. Fire districts don't have to be coterminous with divisional boundaries. Recreation boards don't have to be coterminous with divisional boundaries. Everything should be literally up for revision. And I think that's the message that needs to be clearly communicated as well when we go to the public. There's probably other things that need to be brought to their attention as well, but This is simply an initial option to look at, and there's probably going to be some revision that comes out of it after you've gone through an engagement process with the public.
Brian?
So these are questions and not suggestions. I just need to know the logic. Why we wouldn't, like Township 17.6, that is the division between your proposed 4 and 7 down in that corner. Why wouldn't you just carry that line straight through and make the Township 17 or 1816 part of what would be Div 7 and retain Bow City and that area to the north with Div 4? They both have, one has a population of 17 that would go to Div 7, and the other one with Bow City would go into Div 4. That was one, and then I had another question up around Div 9. Why don't you just make that line straight? At Township Road 21, I don't know what it is, over top of Gem there, there's a squiggle. Just make that line straight. Because it's a population that would amount to, if I'm reading my numbers correct, 21 people that would go into Div 6 and come out of Div 9. It keeps the line straighter. So, and you know, if there's a logic around keeping it the way it is, I get it. I'm just, for me, that's cleaner.
We can certainly have Constantine come to the table here as well and just be part of the discussion. The StatsCan census results that we have going back to 2016, they gathered information that determined the population for what they refer to as dissemination blocks. The dissemination blocks are not coterminous with the township boundaries. And that's why we've got some areas where we're not able to, in order to achieve the balance that has been set with this particular option that's before you, we've had to follow the boundaries of those dissemination blocks rather than the township 6x6 boundary. It's not to say that this is absolute. We can do some more playing with the map. I don't know if you want to take the time and do that today, or if we should be looking at spending some time on another day and literally spend some time manipulating the map and figure out what it does to the actual numbers across each of the divisions.
Kevin.
So, Madam Reeve, I think, you know, I asked for this backup because I knew there would be these type of questions, but this isn't accurate like Lane mentions fully. It's based on, so I think if this is something that's going to proceed, we should look at doing a census next spring and have official counts so that we are 100% accurate up until that time. We have from that time until the end of the year to get everything in order and go out to the public. I mean, the concept to the public, we can go out in the meantime, but the final boundary lines, I think you're going to be better prepared if you take this out to census and have the actual numbers that we can pinpoint exactly what the number is going to be. Not that it's going to matter with 20 people, it won't, but I mean, if you're plus or minus 25%, you can be 150 and still be within the rules. But that would be my suggestion. I know the census adds a bit of money, but at least it would be accurate.
Lionel?
Just one question on by the Bow River, Section 18, Township 18. Why is that purple, blue little thing? There's no population there, but it's segregated from Div 7.
That might be just technical mistake. It shouldn't be this. We'll take care of it.
What about the idea of a census? get the right numbers, Brian?
Well, I support that, I guess, but I'm like Clarence. I just think that if we're going to go out and say we're proposing going from 10 to 9, we need some more information. I would personally prefer 2 or 3 different options that we send out with that. People can say, yeah, I think this is great. This is my first option, second. I mean, those alignments can still change based on some population, but my fear is that, oh my gosh, we're going to make some stuff up again in the coffee shop. And I totally agree with Councillor Amelong that I got away on us last time, and so having a little more information is better than less, but I do support the idea of a census.
To me, that would all depend on how much that's going to cost us. Wasn't it last time it was going to be around $30,000 when we talked about it a few years ago?
I'm guessing it would probably be pretty close to that. We could go back and revisit the cost of the 2009 and then update it, of course, because of inflation since then. But it takes time. You would actually be looking at probably having the census date sometime in mid-June, and then it takes a little bit of time to collate all the results after that. But there is enough time to do that. We can start the conversation about the concept of moving from 10 to 9 and throw information out based on what we've got right now, but let them know that there is interest in having a census conducted to confirm what the boundaries, what the population should be, so that it's based on accurate, current information.
My question is, I'm sure the census would be great for this, but I think there's probably we could use the census for other purposes also, right, Kevin?
That's exactly what I was thinking. A lot of our funding models were based on per capita use of things, and I think we need for our partners and us more accurate numbers. And if it is $30,000, it is. But at the end of the day, you have a solid base again of numbers that you can use. So I think it is a dual purpose for sure.
The province will accept those numbers too, don't they? If it's a municipal census. Yeah.
I'm just thinking because there was one taken in 2016 by the feds, right? I think that's accurate enough.
But what we would take would give us more accurate numbers to some of these that you've extrapolated from a larger portion. So I think that's kind of important. I think it's also important to keep lines straight and core townships together and that type of thing. I know keep as much of that as possible. There's a couple, some of them have already been mentioned. The little tow on Div 5 and the funny thing up around Rosemary there. Can't we make that a little bit more, a little straighter? Maybe it's communities that you're keeping together. I don't know. But let's keep it as simple as possible.
It's pretty simple.
Yeah, it is. No, it's not bad. Yeah.
When I look at.
Yep.
So we found. Seems to me when we did I think we've only done one municipal census since I've been around, and the numbers were much more accurate because it was a people going door to door, going to houses and getting actual numbers, as opposed to submitting a piece of paper to the federal government. So they're much more accurate census. Lionel?
Well, I agree with Clarence and Brian that I think if we bring a proposal forward that's decisive, that I think we'd have far less trouble And I leave a few squiggly lines in there for people to tear apart. And then and they'll think they win, and maybe we will think we win.
What I'm hearing then is there's interest in bringing back a proposal for conducting a census, updating the estimate for the cost to do so, the timelines that would be involved. We can certainly do that and have that information available for you here. I don't know if we would be in a position to have it for the first meeting in January. If we don't do it then, it's going to be into February because that second meeting in January has been canceled because of the ASB conference.
Get that information. Take a while to get the census organized too, wouldn't it? Just let people know there was going to be one, which would be a good thing to do in advance anyhow.
I know what we did in 2009, we had someone that was brought on as basically a project manager for that project alone. And then we hired a number of enumerators that went out, canvassed the community. There was the training involved. It takes time to go through that process, but it is going to be current, valuable information.
Yeah. And it's really great, I think, if you can think of someone in your own division area, because I don't know if it was that census or a different census where there were people who really had no concept of where anything was, and it. Yeah, yeah. You'll do it yourself. We could make it a function of council. I have 3 colonies. Not a good idea. Okay. So census 10 to 9, balance the population. Is that enough for a start, Lane? Perfect. Thank you. No, I'm amazed. I thought we'd be here till midnight. Okay, funding request from HALO 10-4. Wayne, I know that you attended a Southeast Mayors and Reeves meeting. I sort of had to warn them about this crazy guy that was coming to represent us. How'd you do? What'd you find out about HALO?
I brought it up. I said that we're having trouble supporting too, but like I was warned beforehand, they love their halo down there, and that is almost, you're almost taking your life in hand, saying no, we can, So I think it's still an ongoing process. We got to try and work on the stars and halo to start trying to cooperate with each other. But Halo's, I don't see how they can keep going. They don't get the provincial help that STARS does, and they don't get the fundraising that STARS also gets. So it's going to be difficult for them. So
We support them right now with $1 per capita. And so they're asking for more money, basically, right, in this ask. Accept as information or a motion? Clarence.
I'll make a motion, we keep them at where we're at.
Any discussion? Brian?
Well, I agree with that. I just wanted to add a little statement, pending review of provincial air ambulance service.
Which is happening.
That's exactly right. And we might come to the conclusion that there needs to be a change,
Yeah.
but I don't want to make an increase until I see that report or till we have a chance to put eyes on it.
So the motion would be to keep our figure the same until we until the completion of the provincial study on air ambulance. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Funding request, Tilley Senior Society Recreation Board, Div 2, 10-5.
So I can speak to some of this, but I think probably Councillor Callan would be the one that would have most of the background information. Right now, all of the funding for the Division 2 Rec Board is allocated to the Rec Board, and the Rec Board distributes it out to the community groups that operate facilities within the division. We've got the Seniors Center that has needed repairs and needs additional repairs. Certainly beyond the budget of what was allocated for them, and the request is, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Councillor Callan, it's a one-time request for additional funding in 2020 to offset the costs incurred by the seniors organization, at which time it would actually be pulled back down to the 2019 level. Is that what the expectation is?
Still have till March to decide that, right?
Yeah, which is when the mill rate is set.
Yeah.
Anne-Marie?
A question for UB. The Rec Board has $110,745 left. Why are they not giving the 15 to the seniors?
We had the meeting in November, and this came across the table, so some decided they wanted to write a letter to get more funding, so that whatever was there was still distributed amongst the other 6 organizations, because they're all going to have their problems too to deal with. So I talked to Matt about it, and he said you can file for more. So I told these people you can do that, so of course they did. And I went and looked at it, and their facility is used twice a month for the seniors, and it's rented out 5 to 10 times per year for other functions, for other groups. So a maximum of 35 times it's used. And they charge $50 per use, so it's not a lot they charge, and they do need a lot of repairs on the west wall and the roof. I discussed it with some of the seniors who are in charge, the Mutuals and Jacobsons. I asked them if they'd like to come in and have a delegation on it, and they said no, they wanted me to handle it. Okay, so here I am. So they have been allocated $6,500 for the year for operating and maintenance, which won't cover their repairs over there. So then the group decided, if county does not decide to add on the extra money up to $15,000 for one time for 1 year, they would absolutely go into the fund and let them have some of the money. So we'll have $269,000 when this is all set and done for the year, plus what's reserve is left. So there's a lot of money there. So I think that's what it's going to go to. But I said I would bring it to council.
So what I'm struggling with is that when I look at the balance sheet here, and I see that the income minus the Tilley Rec Board grant is well, basically not even $8,000, and yet your operating is $9,800. So you're not even covering your operating outside of your grant. You need that grant to cover your operating, and I don't think that's good management. I think that needs to be addressed in all our communities. If we're surviving by a grant from our rec grants, that's not good business, and it's not going to set ourselves up for success to replace stuff in the future. These groups are going to continually come back to our communities and say, we need help. So I can't support this funding request.
Brian, you mean as an add-on to this money already?
Yeah, and I guess that's what I'm getting at, is that, you know, when I look at the rent, it's $71.50 plus some donations and a membership, you don't even get to 8,000, sorry. And your disbursements, 9,860 last year, because I didn't do the math as far as subtracting the renovation cost. But that's basically your fixed cost, your electricity taxes, caretaker, natural gas, water, telephone, etc. So you're $1,800 short, or more than that even, when it comes to covering your operating costs. And these facilities, they need to cover their operating costs.
Well, every community does things differently, and certainly, you know, when I think of what Rolling Hills does, it's when we used to have a mill rate for recreation for every division, we purposely let the mill rate cover operating. That's just the way we did it. When we build something, we try to raise the money. So I have no idea what Tilley's been doing. So at that time, you could actually say, well, the easiest way for us to raise money is to assess all the people in the area that are using it, and we don't have to, you know, that pays for your operating. And so everybody does things a little different. So I wouldn't jump to conclusions right away and saying that's what has to be done. Everybody looks at that rec mill rate in a different way, and I don't know which way is right and which way is wrong, but we've got a common mill rate now, so all of a sudden we're all jumping to conclusions that we're all doing it the same way, and we're not. I think we're probably doing it 9 different ways. So anyway, that's just a comment. I don't know what the answer is.
What I'm afraid of in the future is all these other communities are going to run into the same problem. I'll be asking for more money because these buildings aren't going to last. Another example is the Tilley Arena. A new ice plant quoted at $300,000 for a little town like that. They're going to have to do some fundraising too, for sure.
Again, to you, B, I'm still a little bit confused, and I probably don't understand it. So they're asking for 15,000 from the county. So would that be 15,000 on top, and they keep the 110 in their account?
The 6,500 we changed to 15,000. Because I asked Matt if we could change the allocation. He said you can, yes. So instead of the 6,500 they've been allocated, it will be changed to 15.
And to me, that makes sense when you look at the bottom number. Otherwise, this is 269 plus 15, right? Which,
I guess what they're thinking too is the other 6 organizations are going to have to tap into that reserve for more repairs and maintenance that are going to come along in the town.
but there'll be another round of money, yeah. Anyhow. Trace.
But really, if you've already allocated 6,500 to them, there's still the 110,000 that they could take out, that extra 8,500.
That's what they said. If we don't approve of this, that's what they would do. They would take it out of that to help them out. I just thought it was a good exercise to bring all these numbers forward, and then we see what we have here.
Kelly?
So this whole discussion leads back to paying for services. Again, $50 rent for a building. If they have changed that 3 years ago even, look at the difference of income that they would have had over the 3 years. So if you could have that conversation with your users, I think the rate needs to reflect the sign of the times. Also, we're having this conversation in Bassano. What is recreation funding for? Is it for putting a roof on a building? To me, that's a capital expenditure. So, again, we have no parameters on this rec board funding. Bassano our board is working on that, and we are not going to be including capital in our rec board decisions. It's going to be programming and operating. So that's, oh, well, Molly's involved. It might have some gray areas. I'm a black and white person. She's a gray person. Anyway, I'm just pointing out this is recreation board money, and this is a capital project, so something to think about.
Wayne?
Well, in Division 4, we were allocated so much money every year. We get together and we dole it out. Tilley gets so much money every year. Their recreation board that they have there doles it out. This shouldn't come to us. If they can give out the money to the senior center if they want or if they don't. But it shouldn't be coming to us. The money is already in place to be used. How they want to use it, they make that decision. So I say, no, we don't. Go with this.
Any other thoughts? Tracy?
Yeah, I guess I just kind of struggle with it because there is quite a bit of money in reserves, and I understand maybe some of that is maybe being held in reserve for like the Tilley plant, if they're the hockey arena, if they're going to have to do the ice plant. But right now at this moment in time, the money's there. So that's where I'm struggling with the request is there's not a need for an ask in my mind.
Clarence? Kevin?
Madam Reeve, we'll have to remember when we put in this $500,000 levy that it was, to unify what was collected throughout the county. It was to look after the operating component, which is roughly a third, or maybe slightly over a third of that amount. It was to take in consideration a new agreement for Division 5 and 10, which we know needed to and needs to be updated. And then there was a balance in there that was to put money away for capital of the facilities, which it looked at community halls as part of that in the formula. And that capital replacement number was just under $2 million that the county would need to put away if 100% of everything was going to be replaced at the estimated costs, which we know 100% of everything isn't going to be replaced. So there is going to be some dollars there for capital. So I think that how that capital gets divvied out needs to be decided yet. Once you understand how much is going to be left after we're going to call it operating and everybody has their agreements in place and that liability is booked. And then from that point, but there is, the account does have dollars in it to be able to deal with these big one-off requests that come up where if they need half of it paid for or something, you put an application in, possibly that can be what it's for. But that's the intent of it.
So I'll go back and tell them, no.
Spend
That's okay. It's all right.
Spend what's there. Clarence?
Well, I was going to ask, we've had the information before, but there used to be a list of these types of donations over and above our rec board funding that we've given out over the years. Is that possible to get that again sometime? It was done at one time. I remember seeing it, but I probably...
You're thinking municipal reserve, maybe? Public reserve?
Yeah, I think it was a public reserve, yeah. Like some of the capital expenditures have been helped along in some of our communities.
think Patricia Hall was the last one, wasn't it?
That was regional enhancement, Patricia.
There is the one reserve, the municipal reserve that is in place from the subdivision or development process. We can certainly update that and give you a breakdown as to what projects have been funded through that over the last 15 to 20 years even. And there would be an opportunity for any organization, this one included, to submit an application for consideration under that reserve account, if you've got an appetite for considering that.
So there were no restrictions on municipal reserve and how it was to be spent?
It's supposed to be spent for recreation purposes. Originally it was playgrounds, recreation facilities, and if all things considered, this is probably a recreation facility that could be funded by that.
So, okay, so what are we saying now, or what?
For me, it's just having a look. I know it's a different situation and everything, but it's a bit of information that one should actually consider a little bit. This has been common practice. Do you want to continue to do that, or do you not? And I think it gives you a little bit more, something else to balance things out with for requests like this. And what do you want to do with that in the future?
Fund was more subscribed before the regional enhancement MSI sharing. Then, I mean, we just have basically left it there. But I'm still of the belief that, I mean, this is all money that doesn't really matter what pot it's in. This is in a pot right now. I think they should go ahead and use it to get this done. I mean, it's only another, what, 8,500, and yeah. All good? Okay. Do we need a motion to not, or do? Do we need a motion to say no, or we? I don't know. What do you should have one? Okay. Okay. Somebody make a motion then, and we'll make it formal. Brian.
I'm going to say that we deny the request, and that Tilley Rec Board has to deal with it within their budget. Okay, Tilley Rec Board has to deal with it within their own budget.
Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Appointment of the County of Newell Library Board.
So moved. Put Julie on there.
All right. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. That was for the appointment 1061. Moved by Clarence. Councillor payment sheets, item 10.7. Any questions, concerns? Amory, motion to approve. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Checks for payment.
I'll move we
Pay the
approve
ACON.
ACON 900 and some, I think it was.
Clarence moves the checks for over $350,000 to ACON. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Payment register for council. Any questions on that one? Or the assessment appeal tax refund? Lionel?
I had a question on TA excavating. New water service, there were two of them under there listed. Jackson for $10,395 and Pedersen for $5,751. What, an explanation of what they are?
So how much did you say, Lionel? I just got their account opened here.
How
I
much?
see one for Jackson at $10,395 and Patterson is $5,751. TA excavation. Don't know what that is.
I'm guessing it's a rural water. Just give me a second here. Install. Yeah, so it's a new water service for both of them.
So that's from our existing in-ground lines to service these two properties? Is that what it is?
This will be the cost to connect them, which is recoupable.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so Jeff has signed off on them, so yep, it's cost plus all the other stuff, 7,700 and whatever else that is included with that policy.
So why was one of them less than 7,700 then?
It all depends on their cost to run the pipe. One might be.
But the 7,700 is.
This is just what we paid TA.
This is on top of that. Oh, I'm sorry.
This is all we
yes.
paid TA.
You're right. Yes, I'm sorry. Getting too long.
Opposed, motion is carried. Request for functions of council. No requests. Committee reports. Oh, sorry, Kelly.
I put my hand up as you looked away. So I've been asked to attend a public library board meeting in January 8th and 9th in Edmonton on behalf of the Shortgrass Chair. And I just thought I'd let council know that I will be attending that.
And that's just information, or that's to ask permission? Or
I sure take permission.
Okay.
It is part of my Shortgrass responsibilities.
You're just basically telling us we don't need to make a motion then?
Okay.
I don't know. I'm asking.
I'll make a motion.
I think that's normal. You guys like to know ahead of time. I like to ask ahead of time, then later.
It just I thought you were doing it because somebody else couldn't go.
Yes. Basically,
So it isn't a normal
It's
function.
not normal because the chair couldn't go and I'm vice chair.
Right. Perfect. Okay, Clarence made a motion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Committee reports from Anne-Marie and Brian in the package. And Joint Services Committee, did everybody get information from Tracy? You forwarded stuff as usual from our last meeting, which was it just, it's got to have been further last week. Okay. Newell Recycling Association and Solid Waste. We have down and PEP. and tourism. Who would like to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay, thanks, Lionel.
So there's actually not a lot to report from the landfill. What I was looking for here was because the subject of SAWA came up yesterday, and I had sent out that report last month with all the information about SAWA. There was an agenda, or I mean an attachment that explained SAWA in there, and I've lost it now or can't find it. But anyway, if you didn't receive it or if you want it again, I will find that information for you again and get it to you. That would be better to get it out of the dragon's mouth than mine, because quite often the stories change.
Well, a question for you, Lionel, because stories change. Last night, Bill Marshall said, I am working on this and I want letters of support. And here we have economic development ladies talking about how they're working on energy to waste. So I'm a little bit confused. Who's in charge of this?
That energy to waste from the girls this morning is a whole different program. That's not SAWA. That's the one that PEP came up with, and to be honest with you, I don't know anything about it. I'm very confused there also. That was a proposal to burn railway ties, and the City of Brooks thought they had that in their back pocket, and they were going to run to town with it, but I don't think it was actually there.
So if you're not thinking economic development is running with that program, is Bill the chair of this group?
No. He's the chair of Newell Regional Solid Waste. SAWA is a different animal altogether, and he's not on the executive or any part of it. Raymond Juska is. Raymond Juska is on the executive, so he's actually our spokesman.
So we received an email this morning from Village of Rosemary, and it is asking for our support via the mayor of the Village of Rosemary.
So who's the chair of the SAWA group? Like Paul Ryan is hired, isn't he, or is he a politician? Oh. Bighorn?
Paul Ryan is a politician, yes, from Exshaw, Canmore out there. The chair now is Ben Armstrong.
Tom Grant, mayor of Vulcan?
Yes, you're correct. Yes, that's right. That's
Switched
changed.
over?
Yes, it's changed. You're right.
Concept was to support Newell's acquisition of this, right? To get it to come to Newell. That's why we were advised to write these letters.
That was, yes, that's Bill Marshall's campaign right now, yes, to bring it to Newell. But I mean, that's going to be decided by the engineers as much as anybody else and the SEWA executive. So, I mean, it's going to get cited where it's most logical to put it, most beneficial to put it. We happen to be on the bottom of the top three, so we may get it. I don't know. We're not in the center of the geographical area, but we do have some advantages that other areas don't have.
So that's why I asked, why is our area more important and why can we not have a list of that, which he said that he would work on. So when that comes around, I think we were prepared. If that sounds logical, we'll write a nice letter.
Decision is before we meet again? No.
No, this decision is a while yet. Yeah, it's out there yet.
We could still do this in January if we get this information. Okay. All right. Brian?
I guess what I'm somewhat confused about, and perhaps the request is different than what we've supported in the past. And so I remember at least twice that we've supported moving the project that SEWA was working on in that general of a statement. And I guess I struggle with saying, well, yes, we would like that, and we've put forth that the County of Newell was interested in being the location. So I just don't understand why we would, it's like saying, yes, me again, and we support the project. So does that mean that if another destination is picked, whether it's Vulcan or Wheatland, the other two, that we wouldn't support it? I hope not. So yeah, it would be great to have it here. I'm not speaking against the letter that Bill is and the village has, but I just think it's redundant. We have supported SEWA. We continue to support SEWA. We have left it in NRS, Newell Regional Solid Waste hands, and they are our spokesman in this issue. And I don't know, I don't really see the need to put a letter, and the letter that's been written, I would X out the last paragraph anyways. So.
A different topic, Lionel sent out the SEWA information on November the 13th, if you want to look back to it as an email. So we have that information too. Other questions about, is there anything else from the Solid Waste Authority business, Lionel, or?
No, I really don't have anything further. There's very little to report. The thing runs itself. We got a great manager, and I've mentioned that before. It's a nice committee to be on.
We're glad you're there. Pep, Mr. Pep?
Well, first of all, I've got a lot to learn about PEP so far, but with the new government and their budgets, the budget that PEP is putting forward is kind of on hold right now until they know what kind of grants they're going to get. I think they're getting $100,000 a year right now, and they made several scenarios with a reduced grant, so they're waiting till they figure out how much they're going to get. They have several programs going on, one in Empress, one in Acadia, one in Hannah, I think one in Bow Island also. For the one in Bow Island is to advance hemp, to get a crushing plant for the seeds and maybe even some looking at fiber. So, of course, this is still in the future. Basically, that is what's happening right now. And Brooks wanted to withdraw, but there's in the agreement, they had to give a year's notice, which it didn't, so they're in for another year. And then they'll be withdrawing. And as I've heard, there's some tension in there, so I will hear more about that, I'm sure, in the future. And again, we'll see what's going, and probably by spring, before the budget goes out, we'll make another decision, as we've made it also. But if we decide to withdraw, we're there for another year, because we have to give them a year's notice. So, do you want Mayors and Reeves?
Absolutely.
Okay. Let me see here. Oh yeah, Medicine Hat College is looking for, they're looking into online courses, like instead of students having to move to classes, they're going to put a lot of these courses online, and that way they can certify EMS and stuff like that. And when they have to take hands-on training, they would come in for 2 or 3 days and do this, but a lot of the training they can do online, so that instead of students having to take off 6 weeks or 6 months, they can do it at night after work to advance themselves to become, say, EMS operator or whatever, a lot of different courses. And Medicine Hat is looking into doing that right now. Drew Barnes was at the meeting, and he was challenging Mayors and Reeves to support, promote our region. And we had a very good discussion with him after the meeting. And he was letting us know that we aren't well known. And of course, this is no news to you guys, but we're not well known in Edmonton. And all the money and most of the attention happens in that corridor. Of course, we all know that. But he's trying to promote, trying to get more interest down here and let them know what we're doing. So, I guess. Oh, and they were asking for a letter to the Minister of Health for the sport of Halo, but we're already dealing with that. So, and next meeting is in March. I think March 20th. So.
Thanks, Wayne, and thanks for attending.
Well, last summer and fall, the NRGA hired Don Anderson, which I reported on before. Now, he's a consultant who did an extensive destination assessment of the Brooks and the Newell region. He went also to the villages, Bazzano, also to quite a few, I think all of them except Jem, sorry Molly, all the hamlets, did you? Yeah. And of course he had interviews with professional tourism industry personnel and other people in the community. He did a survey, a large survey as well. I personally took part in that one. He also had himself, but professionally, shoppers go out to the whole community and look at, for example, restaurants to evaluate them, retail services, attraction, and lodging. Quite interesting. An outsider will have quite a different view than us locals. Anyhow, just a few highlights. Best potential target market for our area would be sports tourism, agri-tourism. He thinks we have a huge story with the irrigation that we have in our area, and he thinks we could really capitalize on it. Also, meetings, conferences, extra ones, there's money to be made there, arts and culture, heritage, outdoor recreation. of course, there's challenges, which he has in his report. He did say enhanced partnerships with Travel Alberta and Canadian Badlands are quite important. I'm just saying what he said. Now, when Travel Alberta sees a detailed plan like this, we're way more likely to get funding from them. It is quite a detailed, we don't have all the details yet. It will be available shortly on our Visit Newell website. I think it could be 20 pages or something. And this is a long-term directional roadmap with key initiatives. And of course, we can't have all the initiatives. Of course, there's funding issues, but there is initiatives that we can start on and try to get more diverse revenue from tourism. And I am thinking I think he may be coming back in several months, and I spoke with him, and he is very willing to come as a delegation here and present his report.
What does a consultant like that cost NRTA?
$30,000. The grant was given out by the provincial government. So yeah, it's quite extensive. But he started already in July, and we just got it, was it last week, I believe it was, the report.
Were there any suggestions in the report on how to do it? Because a lot of the things that you mentioned have been mentioned before.
Yes, he has some specific initiatives to several different things. Of course, a lot of them were identified before, but again, I haven't seen the whole report yet. It's not out. But he hopefully will get a lot of direction, and it's not going to be just NRTA doing it. I mean, we have to work together with the communities. And apparently we're going to have, I'm certainly hoping that we're going to get some real specific directions.
All right, anything else? Brian?
I had asked you, Lionel, do you have the information on that New Grow, the allocations that were awarded last week? They hit the top 2 or 3 on the radio, and I was just curious how the...
I do have it, not in my mind, not in my top of my head. Newell Brewing was, they got a $10,000 grant. Work and Play, yes, they got Work and Play got about $4,000. The fun, yes, that's right. The Fun Farm, they got around that $5,000 mark. Yeah. For yaks. That was quite interesting. I can find that for you exactly what it was. I don't have it all in my head. Yes, it was in a joint services package, yes.
Yeah, I made the mistake of blocking all the junk mail, so I didn't get the bulletin for the last 2 weeks. Oh, it's not your fault, Sandra, but I was wondering why it didn't show up, and then I was like, pardon me? Okay. If anybody wants to enjoy a nice evening, that was pretty cool to watch these people get up there. I went especially for it, and yeah, there was some great presentations on that night. Lionel, you do have to share with after Piston Broke got up there, because you tore the house down with your comment. Well, Well, we'd had the yak presentation, and then the Piston Broke came for some, and Newell Brewing, and Lionel said, straight face, he says, yep, he said, normally I've watched Dragon's Den and they provide samples. He says, I didn't get no yak, haven't got no beer.
So I found it. It was Red Roof Studio was 3,000, Brooks Canine Club 2,500, White Barn Fun Farm 5,000, Work and Play 6,000, Earthy Eats was 6,000, Chinook Shrimp 6,000, Newell Brewing 10, Overhead Door Company 2,000.
I have a couple of things that I attended since the last meeting at the end of November, but I think I'm just going to write it out and I'll forward it over the holidays. It's nothing that can't wait. And the day is getting long. Post-agenda items was the finance awards, which we talked about, and I believe the SEWA motion, which we talked about. So both of those have been covered. Minibus reports, corporate priorities chart, events. I guess we're ready to move in camera. Oh, Kelly?
One more item. At our meeting last night, it was suggested we have a discussion around a regional recreation plan. Maybe before you, I'm reading your face, maybe it was before you arrived.
Yeah, I wasn't there for much.
Okay.
So we could put that on an agenda.
To-do list, okay.
For about 2025.
The City of Brooks offered to facilitate the process.
Okay. That'll scare everybody's. So that can go on to an agenda item then, Ariana. Thank you. Anything else before I get us in camera? So let's have a motion to move in. Hubie moves. All in favor? Opposed? Motion's in.